Hi there, and welcome. I'm glad you could join me for this journey into the past. Today, we're stepping into the shoes of an ordinary Victorian laborer, someone who faces the harsh realities of life every day, working tirelessly just to survive. If you're ready, let's continue the journey together. The first light of dawn has barely begun to break through the grime-smeared window, but for you, it's already time to wake. The heavy fog outside clings to the glass, and the air inside your cramped home is thick with cold and dampness. You open your eyes, but there's no sense of relief. The room is still dark, and the chill from the stone floor beneath your bed seeps into your bones. You blink trying to focus, but exhaustion presses down on you like a weight. Another long day stretches ahead, and you can already feel the familiar ache in your body from the lack of rest. You shift beneath the thin, tattered blankets, the fabric scratchy against your skin. It's too cold for comfort, but there's no choice but to keep your body close to your family's bodies to share whatever heat you can. The bed is small, too small for all of you. Your partner, children, and even the elderly all crammed together in the same overcrowded space. There is no privacy, no respite from the noise, from the warmth of bodies, from the restlessness of shared sleep. Your limbs are stiff from having been pressed together all night, but the need to get up is stronger than the desire to rest any longer. The day won't wait, and neither will the work. You stretch, trying to ease some of the tension in your aching joints, but you know it's futile. The physical discomfort of the night lingers in your muscles. Sleep is a luxury here, an occasional escape from the burdens of daily life, but always interrupted, always fleeting. The nights are short, and you're always waking up half dreaming, half dreading the start of another grueling day. You finally sit up, the cold air hitting your skin as you swing your feet onto the wooden floor. It's freezing. The floorboards creak under your weight, and the chill of the room wraps around you like an unwelcome cloak. The fire has long since burned out, leaving only the faintest warmth from the embers, but it's not enough to push back the frost that nips at your skin. There's no point in trying to get comfortable now. The harsh reality of your living conditions hits you like a wave. The overcrowding, the dampness, the constant cold that never seems to leave. The faint light outside does little to illuminate the room. You glance at the wall where the sun should be rising, but see only shadows stretching across the floor. There is no warmth from the outside world, no radiance to lift the heaviness of the morning. The room stays cold, and the struggle to stay warm becomes your first task of the day. You wrap your arms around yourself and try to shake off the last remnants of sleep, but the weariness is hard to shake. There's no time for rest here, no space to breathe freely. The day is already here, and so it begins again. The discomforts of your life are endless cold that chills your bones, dampness that makes the very air feel heavy, and the constant physical strain of overcrowded conditions. Every part of your day is a battle, not just against the elements, but against the overwhelming exhaustion that lingers from night to day. There is no relief from the discomfort. You know you will spend another day working without rest, without ease. But this is life now. The only life you've known where the struggle never ends and the hope of comfort feels as distant as the warm sun you once dreamed of. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to like, share, and comment below with your thoughts. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more immersive stories. Now, let's dive deeper into the struggle of daily life in Victorian times. The dim light of morning had barely begun to break through the small cracks in the cabin, and yet you were already awake. It's not the warmth of the sun that stirs you. There's no warmth to be found in this cold, cramped space. The air is damp, the chill of the night still lingering in the bones of the house. You open your eyes, and the first thing you feel is exhaustion. It's been weeks since you had a proper rest, but sleep is a rare luxury when you're a working-class Victorian. The bed shared with your partner and children is not large enough for all of you. The covers are thin, worn out from years of use, and you can feel the cold stone of the floor beneath the thin mattress. You try to shift, but the space is cramped. Your children are huddled up beside you for warmth, their small bodies pressing into yours, their breath warm against your skin. There's little room to move, but that's the way it's been for as long as you can remember. You're always touching, always too close to the others, all of you trying to share the meager warmth the bed provides. Privacy doesn't exist in this world, and comfort is a distant dream. You try to sit up, but your body protests the movement. Your back aches from the long hours spent working the day before, and your limbs feel heavy, stiff, as though the bed itself has stolen whatever energy you had left. It's a constant struggle, getting up, going to work, returning home, and collapsing into the same cramped space, only to start all over again the next day. You glance over at your partner, still half asleep beside you, their body curled up tightly, trying to hold on to whatever warmth they can before they too are forced to rise. Another day, you whisper to yourself, though it feels more like a resignation than an affirmation. You wish for just a few more minutes of sleep, but you know there's no time for that. The house is already cold, and the workday is waiting. Your children begin to stir beside you, and you hear their little voices sleepy but demanding. "Mama, I'm hungry." Your youngest says, his tiny hands tugging at the covers, trying to find you in the dark. You can hear the discomfort in his voice, a faint whimper as he shifts restlessly beside you. You give him a gentle pat on the head, trying to reassure him, but there's no real comfort to give. "We'll have breakfast soon. Love you," say softly, though you're not sure how much there will be to give. Food has been scarce lately, and the thought of another thin, watered-down meal doesn't ease your worry. But what can you do? You're all in this together. You stretch your stiff limbs, trying to push the weariness from your body, but it doesn't quite work. The cold, damp air settles over you like a heavy blanket weighing you down. You glance around the small room. Everything seems the same as it always does. The walls, the rough-hewn wood, the fire pit that's cold from the night's sleep. It's all so familiar, but it feels like a prison. There's no escape from this life. No escape from the daily grind that never seems to stop. There's no time for rest. No room for comfort, only the constant fight for survival. You try to stand, but the movement feels unnatural, as though your body has forgotten how to function properly. You push yourself up slowly, feeling the ache in your back as you rise. The cold air hits you immediately, prickling your skin, and the first thing you do is reach for the fire. It's a small flame now, just embers from the night before, but you know it's your only hope of warmth. You try to stoke the fire carefully, adding the last of the firewood, but the dampness from the night before makes it a slow process. The cold air makes the effort seem almost futile, but you push on. "Come on, little flame," you mutter under your breath. You need this fire. You need it to cook, to stay warm, to keep the chill of the house at bay. The fire, though weak, flickers to life, but it's not enough to heat the room. It never is. The room is small, cramped, and poorly insulated. No matter how much you stoke the fire, it always feels like the cold has already taken root in every corner of the room. Your partner stirs beside you, groaning as they sit up. Their face is tired, worn with exhaustion, but they know there's no choice but to get moving. "I'll get the children dressed," they say, rubbing their eyes, already feeling the weight of the day. The routine has become so ingrained in both of you that there is no need to speak it aloud. You've been through it so many times that the motions come automatically. "Good." You reply, your voice a little strained from the cold. You glance over at your children, who are slowly waking up, rubbing their eyes and stretching as best as they can in the cramped bed. They too are used to this routine. The waking, the dressing, the waiting for the next meal, the never-ending grind. "Let's get moving," you say, trying to sound more confident than you feel. You can't afford to let them see how tired you are. You can't afford to show any weakness. Not now. Not when there's so much to do. The house needs cleaning. There's food to be prepared, and the day's labor waits outside. The thought of it makes your body ache even more, but there's no choice. There's always work to do. The children climb out of bed, their feet cold against the floor, and the familiar sound of their small voices fills the room. You go through the motions, dressing them, getting them ready, trying to warm their clothes in front of the fire. The air is cold, but there's no time to worry about that now. You're all in this together. The fire flickers and crackles, a small but vital source of warmth. You can feel it, but it's not enough to truly warm the house, not enough to make this day any easier. The work awaits, and there's no time to rest. As you head toward the door, you hear your partner quietly whisper to you, "Are we going to be all right today?" The question lingers in the air for a moment, and you feel the weight of it. You've asked yourself that same question 1,000 times, but you know that the answer is something you must find together. There's no guarantee, no certainty. The work is hard. The days are long, but somehow you've made it this far. You've survived the cold, the hunger, the exhaustion, and you'll keep going. Because in this life, survival is the only victory you can claim. With a deep breath, you nod, even though you can't be sure. "We'll make it through." You say the words, feeling like a promise, even if it's not one you can fully keep. You can't stop now. The day is just beginning. And so you move forward. You rise, you work, you survive. You stand at the edge of the hearth, your eyes bleary with the early morning light, your body heavy with the exhaustion that never seems to lift. The cold of the room wraps itself around you like a vice, and you know that the day will not wait for you to find warmth. The fire is the first thing that needs to be done, the first thing that stands between you and the long, cold hours ahead. Without it, the house will be unbearably cold. The food you need to prepare will remain uncooked, and the darkness will press in, making everything feel heavier. You've done this many times before, too many to count, and yet it always feels like a battle. The fire is more than just warmth. It's the lifeblood of the home. Without it, you and your family would freeze. Your clothes would never dry, and your bones would ache from the chill that refuses to leave. There's no time to wait for the fire to get warm enough. There's no luxury in getting it started. You need it now. The first problem is the wood. It's damp. You can feel it in the way the logs weigh down your arms as you gather them. The morning frost still clings to the wood, and the wetness seeps into the fibers, making it harder to get the fire going. You pick up a log, your fingers numb from the cold, and try to arrange it in the hearth, but it doesn't fit right. It never fits right. The space is too small, the logs too big, the fire pit too shallow. You curse under your breath, the frustration already mounting. The fire should be easy, it should just catch. But instead, you're stuck here wasting time struggling with damp wood and wet kindling. Need help with that, your partner's voice comes from behind you, rough with sleep. They're up now, rubbing their eyes, their body as stiff and tired as yours. You can hear the exhaustion in their voice, but you also hear the willingness to help something that at this moment feels as much a lifeline as the fire itself. You glance over your shoulder at them, shaking your head. No, it's all right. I've got it. But you know the truth. This is something you have to do. The fire is your responsibility, just as the work outside is their responsibility. The cold seeps through the walls, through the cracks in the wooden floor, and you know you can't afford to wait for help. Every minute counts. The children are stirring now, their little voices calling out softly from the bed still half asleep. You know they'll need the warmth soon, too. With a deep breath, you grab a few more logs this time, trying to find the driest pieces you can. Your hands are numb from the cold, and the wood feels heavier than it should. You arrange the logs carefully, stacking them in a pile, but even as you do, you know it's not enough. The logs are too thick, the kindling too sparse. You need more something to catch the flame, something to get it started. You crouch down and reach for the small bundle of kindling you've managed to gather the night before. You rub the thin sticks together, hoping the friction will create enough heat to start a spark. But it's no use. The dampness of the morning air has soaked everything through. You grab a match, strike it, and watch as the tiny flame flickers weakly before dying in the damp air. Another match. Another failed attempt. The frustration is building again, the cold pressing in even harder as you waste time. Come on, you mutter under your breath. Please just catch. You try again, striking a match and holding it against the kindling. This time there's a small flicker. It's weak, but it's there. You hold your breath, praying that this tiny spark will grow. Slowly, carefully, you add more dry twigs, coaxing the fire to life, willing it to grow. The first few seconds feel like eternity, but then, as the kindling catches, you finally hear the crackle of flames. It's a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. The warmth starts to spread, and you exhale deeply, feeling the tension in your shoulders ease just a little. Your partner moves closer, standing beside you, now their hands outstretched to feel the heat. About time, they say, a smile tugging at the corner of their mouth. I thought we might freeze before breakfast. You chuckle softly, the sound dry and strained. There's no time for laughter, not really, but it's nice to hear it, to feel the fleeting warmth of your partner's presence. You reach for a few more logs, placing them on the fire to keep it going. The heat is still faint, but it's enough. The room begins to warm, just a little, but it's the beginning of something that will carry you through the day. As the fire grows, so does the light. It pushes back the darkness that has settled over the room, casting shadows on the walls and illuminating the faces of your children as they slowly begin to wake. They stir in their beds, stretching and yawning, their small voices calling out for you. You can hear them talking to each other in the dim light. The fire, though still small, has made the room feel a little less cold, a little less isolated. The air feels warmer, and you know that the day is now beginning. The heat from the fire will allow you to prepare a meager breakfast, get the children dressed, and begin the tasks that await. But you can't help but think about how this fire, this tiny flame, is more than just a source of heat. It's a symbol of everything you have to do to survive. It's not just about staying warm. It's about making sure the day begins right. Without the fire, there's no way to cook, no way to heat the house, and no way to light the dark corners of the room. You're reliant on this fire to get you through another day, and as much as you try not to think about it, the weight of that responsibility presses down on you. Are we all right for firewood? Your partner asks, eyeing the dwindling pile next to the hearth. For now, you reply, but you both know it's running low. There's just enough to get you through the day, but the next few days are uncertain. You'll need to gather more, and that means more time away from the house, more time out in the cold. But there's nothing else you can do. The fire is essential to everything you do. It keeps the family warm, it cooks the food, and it lights the house. Without it, there's no life here. The fire finally catches, properly crackling and popping as it grows. You stand up, feeling the warmth spread across your hands and face. It's a small thing, but in this world, it feels like everything. The room no longer feels quite as cold, and the day no longer feels as heavy. The fire is the lifeline that connects you to the world beyond your walls, and in that small flame, you find a sense of hope, a reminder that despite everything, you can keep going. Let's get the breakfast ready, you say, turning to your partner, ready to face the next challenge of the day. And with the fire burning steadily in the hearth, you feel a flicker of something more than survival. It's the flicker of life, the flicker of hope. The fire has started, and so has the day. It's not just about placing stones on top of each other. It's about the people, the sacrifice, and the vision that made it all possible. So sit back, relax, and get ready for a journey through the heart of medieval construction. And remember, if you're enjoying this journey, don't forget to like the video, share it with others, and comment below with your thoughts. Let's begin. The sun had just begun its slow ascent over the horizon, casting a pale glow over the bustling construction site. The sounds of the city, horse-drawn carts, rumbling vendors, shouting in the distance were drowned out by the steady rhythm of labor. The air was thick with dust, and the scent of wet stone, a sharp contrast to the faint sweetness of the early morning. Workers, their faces obscured by the haze of the rising mist, labored in silence, their hands raw from handling stone and timber. The earth beneath their feet was uneven and muddy, and the cold of the morning still lingered in the bones of the men. Yet despite the discomfort, they moved with a kind of practiced diligence, as if they were merely pieces in a grand clockwork, each man playing his part in the slow rise of something immense. The great walls of the castle were beginning to take shape, their jagged edges visible in the early light. Sturdy scaffolding creaked under the weight of the men climbing their boots, leaving marks on the wet wood as they reached higher and higher. Up above, heavy beams were being hauled into place, their long shadows stretching across the ground below. Every stone set into place was a moment of careful calculation, a measurement taken a hand placed gently to ensure no room for error. There was little room for mistakes in such an endeavor. Every stone laid upon another demanded precision, and the weight of each layer increased with every course. Above the workers, the towering stone walls grew taller, their shadow stretching across the site like a silent sentry observing the labor below. The cold of the room cuts through you as you sit up fully trying to shake off the grogginess from another restless night. The small flicker of the fire does little to chase away the chill that settles deep into your bones. The worn wooden floor beneath your feet is cold, and the dampness in the air makes it feel like the house itself is pressing against you, trying to keep you down. You glance over at your partner, still tangled in the thin blankets, their face contorted with exhaustion. They've barely slept, just like you, but the day will start whether you're ready or not. There's always work to be done. You try to move quietly, not wanting to wake the children yet. They'll need time to adjust, to shake off their own grogginess before the long day begins. You look around the room, the dim light casting long shadows on the walls. The smell of last night's bread still lingers faintly in the air, a reminder of the little comfort you could afford. But now, it's time to face the day and the reality that you're about to do it all over again. The cold air seems to bite harder than it did yesterday, and the thought of having to get dressed in layers of old, worn clothes brings a heavy sigh to your chest. The pile of clothes on the chair next to you is not much. There's a woolen shirt threadbare at the sleeves, and a pair of trousers that were once sturdy but now have holes near the knees. You pull them on the fabric, scratching against your skin as you tug them up. Every item is familiar, though not comfortable. They don't fit quite right anymore. Everything is too tight in places where it used to be loose, too short in places where it used to stretch. You reach for a worn coat, its dark, faded color barely visible under the grime of countless days spent in the same layers. You button it up as best you can, but the fabric doesn't quite meet in the middle. It's not a proper fit. Nothing is, but it's all you have. The cold doesn't care if the coat fits right, and neither do you. "Do we have enough today?" Your partner mumbles from the bed, their voice thick with sleep. You glance over at them, noticing the way their eyes are already half-lidded, fighting the same battle as you. They're exhausted too from the endless cycle of work and worry. "We'll make do." You answer, your voice hoarse from the early morning chill. "We always do." The words feel hollow, even as you say them. Every day, you make do, and yet there's never enough to make things easier. You turn back to the clothes in front of you, pulling on the old boots that are cracked and falling apart at the soles. The boots have been patched up so many times, it's hard to remember what they used to look like. You try not to think about how cold your hands feel, how the simple act of dressing has become something you dread. You pull on another pair of socks, hoping they'll give you some warmth, but they're worn too thin. It doesn't matter. You know it's all about surviving. Every piece of clothing is a part of the puzzle that keeps you alive. It's not about looking good, about luxury or comfort. It's about making sure you can face the day without freezing. "Do you need help with the boots?" Your partner asks, their voice softer now. You shake your head, managing to pull them on by yourself. You've been doing this long enough to know that you have to be quick. You have to be efficient. There's no room for delays in a world where every minute counts. "Just need a minute to get everything together," you reply, tying the boots as tightly as you can. You grab the threadbare gloves, the ones you patched up with bits of old fabric, and slide your hands into them. They're not much, but they'll have to do. You're used to it by now, making do with what little you have, stretching everything as far as it can go, repurposing items until they no longer resemble what they were intended for. You look over at your children, still huddled in the bed, their small bodies curled up to stay warm. They're tired too, having woken up with the same exhaustion you did. They won't have time for rest today either. The house is a mess, the firewood is running low, and the day's work waits for no one. The reality of your situation presses down on you like a weight. But even in the face of that weight, you know you have to keep moving, have to keep going. There's no alternative. You move to the small, poorly lit window and look out at the street. It's already busy with the sounds of early risers, people hurrying through the fog to get to work. Their faces tired, their clothes similar to yours, worn threadbare and functional. You can feel the weight of it all, the exhaustion, the cold, the never-ending cycle of survival. There's no time for anything else. No time for comfort. No time for pleasure. Just the drive to keep going, to make it through another day. As you stand there, looking out into the gray, fog-filled world, a small shiver runs down your spine. Not from the cold, but from the sheer weight of the life you're living. Every day is a fight, but there's no choice but to keep fighting. You know it's not just about surviving the day. It's about getting up and doing it again the next day, and the next. The clothing, the worn boots, the frayed coat, they are all reminders of what you're living through. They are pieces of survival, no more, no less. Your partner moves to sit up, rubbing their face. The sleep is still heavy on them, but they are up, just like you, ready to face the day. They are your partner in this struggle, and though the weight of everything feels too much to bear, at times you know you can't do it alone. Not in this life, not in this world. You share the burden, share the hope, and share the exhaustion. Time to get moving. You say quietly as you reach for the last of the bread you saved for the morning meal. It's a small loaf, hard and stale, but it will have to do. We've got a full day ahead. Your partner nods and slowly gets out of bed, their movements slow and deliberate, as if the act of getting up itself takes everything they have. The children stir, and one by one they start to rouse, rubbing their eyes and stretching. You give them a brief smile as they sit up, their faces still sleepy, but beginning to wake. In these small moments, you find a semblance of peace. It's not much, but it's enough to carry you through another day. And as you pull on your coat and step toward the door, the weight of the cold settles over you once again, and you know that no matter how hard today might be, you will keep going. You'll keep moving. You'll survive, because that's what you've always done. You stand at the edge of the hearth, your eyes bleary with the early morning light, your body heavy with the exhaustion that never seems to lift. The cold of the room wraps itself around you like a vice, and you know that the day will not wait for you to find warmth. The fire is the first thing that needs to be done, the first thing that stands between you and the long, cold hours ahead. Without it, the house will be unbearably cold. The food you need to prepare will remain uncooked, and the darkness will press in, making everything feel heavier. You've done this many times before, too many to count, and yet it always feels like a battle. The fire is more than just warmth. It's the lifeblood of the home. Without it, you and your family would freeze. Your clothes would never dry, and your bones would ache from the chill that refuses to leave. There's no time to wait for the fire to get warm enough. There's no luxury in getting it started. You need it now. The first problem is the wood. It's damp. You can feel it in the way the logs weigh down your arms as you gather them. The morning frost still clings to the wood, and the wetness seeps into the fibers, making it harder to get the fire going. You pick up a log, your fingers numb from the cold, and try to arrange it in the hearth, but it doesn't fit right. It never fits right. The space is too small, the logs too big, the fire pit too shallow. You curse under your breath, the frustration already mounting. The fire should be easy. It should just catch. But instead, you're stuck here, wasting time struggling with damp wood and wet kindling. Need help with that? Your partner's voice comes from behind you, rough with sleep. They're up now, rubbing their eyes, their body as stiff and tired as yours. You can hear the exhaustion in their voice, but you also hear the willingness to help, something that at this moment feels as much a lifeline as the fire itself. You glance over your shoulder at them, shaking your head. No, it's all right. I've got it. But you know the truth. This is something you have to do. The fire is your responsibility, just as the work outside is their responsibility. The cold seeps through the walls, through the cracks in the wooden floor, and you know you can't afford to wait for help. Every minute counts. The children are stirring now, their little voices calling out softly from the bed, still half asleep. You know they'll need the warmth soon, too. With a deep breath, you grab a few more logs this time, trying to find the driest pieces you can. Your hands are numb from the cold, and the wood feels heavier than it should. You arrange the logs carefully, stacking them in a pile, but even as you do, you know it's not enough. The logs are too thick, the kindling too sparse. You need more something to catch the flame, something to get it started. You crouch down and reach for the small bundle of kindling you've managed to gather the night before. You rub the thin sticks together, hoping the friction will create enough heat to start a spark. But it's no use. The dampness of the morning air has soaked everything through. You grab a match, strike it, and watch as the tiny flame flickers weakly before dying in the damp air. Another match. Another failed attempt. The frustration is building again, the cold pressing in even harder as you waste time. "Come on," you mutter under your breath. "Please, just catch." You try again, striking a match and holding it against the kindling. This time, there's a small flicker. It's weak, but it's there. You hold your breath, praying that this tiny spark will grow. Slowly, carefully, you add more dry twigs, coaxing the fire to life, willing it to grow. The first few seconds feel like eternity, but then, as the kindling catches, you finally hear the crackle of flames. It's a small victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. The warmth starts to spread, and you exhale deeply, feeling the tension in your shoulders ease just a little. Your partner moves closer, standing beside you, now their hands outstretched to feel the heat. About time, they say, a smile tugging at the corner of their mouth. "I thought we might freeze before breakfast." You chuckle softly, the sound dry and strained. There's no time for laughter. Not really. But it's nice to hear it, to feel the fleeting warmth of your partner's presence. You reach for a few more logs, placing them on the fire to keep it going. The heat is still faint, but it's enough. The room begins to warm just a little, but it's the beginning of something that will carry you through the day. As the fire grows, so does the light. It pushes back the darkness that has settled over the room, casting shadows on the walls and illuminating the faces of your children as they slowly begin to wake. They stir in their beds, stretching and yawning, their small voices calling out for you. You can hear them talking to each other in the dim light. The fire, though still small, has made the room feel a little less cold, a little less isolated. The air feels warmer, and you know that the day is now beginning. The heat from the fire will allow you to prepare a meager breakfast. Get the children dressed and begin the tasks that await. But you can't help but think about how this fire, this tiny flame, is more than just a source of heat. It's a symbol of everything you have to do to survive. It's not just about staying warm. It's about making sure the day begins right. Without the fire, there's no way to cook, no way to heat the house, and no way to light the dark corners of the room. You're reliant on this fire to get you through another day, and as much as you try not to think about it, the weight of that responsibility presses down on you. "Are we all right for firewood?" your partner asks, eyeing the dwindling pile next to the hearth. "For now," you reply, but you both know it's running low. There's just enough to get you through the day, but the next few days are uncertain. You'll need to gather more, and that means more time away from the house, more time out in the cold. But there's nothing else you can do. The fire is essential to everything you do. It keeps the family warm, it cooks the food, and it lights the house. Without it, there's no life here. The fire finally catches properly crackling and popping as it grows. You stand up feeling the warmth spread across your hands and face. It's a small thing, but in this world, it feels like everything. The room no longer feels quite as cold, and the day no longer feels as heavy. The fire is the lifeline that connects you to the world beyond your walls, and in that small flame, you find a sense of hope, a reminder that despite everything, you can keep going. "Let's get the breakfast ready," you say, turning to your partner, ready to face the next challenge of the day. And with the fire burning steadily in the hearth, you feel a flicker of something more than survival. It's the flicker of life, the flicker of hope. The fire has started, and so has the day. The fire in the hearth has finally settled into a steady burn, casting a faint warmth across the room. But it does little to chase the chill that wraps around you as you step outside. The morning fog still lingers in the air, thick and heavy, clinging to the streets like a ghost refusing to lift. It's still dark, but you've already had enough time to gather your things and prepare yourself for the long day ahead. The cabin feels smaller now, as if the walls are closing in on you, pushing you out into the world beyond where the cold is waiting. There's no time for more than a brief moment to gather yourself before the real work begins. You take one last look around the cabin. Your family is still asleep, wrapped in the warmth of the blankets you managed to share between the 5 of you. The fire's glow is a poor comfort, but it's all you can offer right now. A glance at your partner, still lying there, their eyes closed, breathing deep and steady. You wish for just a moment that you could lie down next to them, that you could sleep a little longer, just a little more. But you know it's not possible. The work outside the factory, the long walk, it waits for no one. You know this, and you've known it for years. You reach for your coat, its fabric thin and worn, but it's all you have to protect you against the cold. As you pull it over your shoulders, the cold air greets you like an old enemy, sharp and biting. The boots, too, are old, cracked at the soles, barely held together by the patches you've stitched yourself over the past few months. They will have to do. They have to. You step toward the door, knowing that once you leave the warmth of the cabin, there will be no comfort for hours. You open the door, and the first blast of cold hits your face. It's a slap, a harsh reminder that the world outside is not kind. The streets are as you expect them to be, muddy, icy, and uneven underfoot. The snow, which had fallen last night, has turned to slush from the constant foot traffic, the wheels of carts, and the horses trudging along the narrow streets. Each step you take makes a sucking sound as your boots sink slightly into the mud, a reminder that there's no relief from the elements. The grime of the city has a way of sticking to everything. Your boots, your coat, even your face, no matter how hard you try to avoid it. The streets are a mix of dirt, ice, and refuse, the remnants of industry and poverty piled together in a grim spectacle. The smell is the first thing that hits you. It's a rancid combination of coal, smoke, sweat, and something you can't quite place, but it lingers in the back of your throat, making your stomach churn. The factory, with its towering smokestacks, belches out thick clouds of black smoke that swirl into the air, making it feel like the very breath of the city is choking you. The soot falls from the sky, like ash landing on your coat, your face, your hands. There is no escape from it. You pass the workers trudging beside you, their faces covered in grime, their eyes tired and glazed from the endless labor. There is no joy in this walk. There is only the anticipation of the factory and the long hours of toil that await. You don't look up. You don't have time to. The streets are filled with people heading to the same place, their steps heavy with the same exhaustion you feel in your own legs. You catch snippets of conversations, but they're distant, muffled by the sound of your own footsteps and the constant hum of the city around you. One man nearby grumbles about the cold. Another curses the factory owner for not raising wages despite the ever-increasing demands of the work. It's the same complaints day in and day out, but there's nothing anyone can do. Complaints don't change the situation. They never do. You try to step around the puddles, but the ice is slick, and the roads are narrow, lined with carts and wagons hauling goods to the market. The sound of horses' hooves clopping on the cobblestones mixes with the cries of street vendors shouting their wares. The streets are crowded, but they're also empty, in a way filled with people going somewhere doing something. But all of them with the same burden: survival. No one looks at each other. There's no time for pleasantries here. You know that if you stop to chat, if you linger, you'll be late for the factory. You'll lose precious minutes that might mean the difference between being allowed in for the day's work and being sent back home without pay. You pass by the grander homes where the wealthy have long since settled in their heated, comfortable spaces, their windows glowing with warmth. The contrast is staggering. The few who pass by in their fine clothes barely notice you as they hurry on their faces, wrapped in the warmth of their privilege. You wonder for a moment what it would be like to walk into a house like that, to be greeted by warmth, by comfort. But the thought is fleeting. There's no room for such dreams here. Dreams are for the idle, for those with time to waste. You have no time for anything but the cold, the walk, and the factory. The wind picks up as you approach the industrial district, making it harder to keep your head down, to keep your eyes focused on the path ahead. The buildings here are massive, their steel frames looming over the streets like giants. The factories stretch endlessly, their walls blackened by soot and smoke, their chimneys reaching up to the sky, belching smoke into the already polluted air. You can hear the clanging of machinery, even from the outside, a constant, oppressive sound that fills the air. You've grown used to it, but today it feels louder somehow, like the world itself is being crushed beneath the weight of industry. You reach the gates of the factory, your legs aching from the long walk, your feet damp from the slush. The foreman stands by the entrance, checking each worker's ID as they file in. The line moves slowly, and you shuffle forward, with the others trying to stay warm in the biting wind. The thought crosses your mind again. How much longer can this go on? How much longer can you keep going? Like this, day after day, trudging through the muck, dealing with the cold, with the hunger, with the endless work. Morning, a fellow worker greets you with a nod. His face is covered in soot, his eyes tired, just like yours. You nod back, but there's no real greeting, no real connection. You both know what today will bring hours of back-breaking labor with little rest and even less reward. The foreman eyes you as you pass, checking you off the list before ushering you into the factory's depths. You step inside, away from the cold, but even in here, it's no better. The heat from the furnaces is stifling, and the air is thick with coal dust, making it hard to breathe. The machinery hums with an eerie monotony, and you take your place alongside the other workers, ready to start the same grueling tasks you've done for years. The walk through the cold streets, the stench of the factory, the exhaustion already beginning to sink in, all of it is a reminder that no matter how hard you try, no matter how much you endure, the struggle never ends. The cold, the work, the walk, they are all part of the same fight. And in this fight, there is no choice but to keep moving, to keep going, no matter how hard the day ahead may be. The gates of the factory loom ahead, their rusted iron bars standing like sentinels, waiting to swallow you into the noise, the grime, and the endless work. As you approach the sound, hits first the loud, unrelenting hum of machinery, clanging metal, and the distant roar of steam engines. It's the sound of industry of labor in its most brutal form, and it fills the air, pressing down on you like an invisible weight. You pass through the gates and into the courtyard, a barren stretch of dirt and gravel. The ground is slick with oil and muck, and as you walk, your boots stick to the earth, each step heavier than the last. You try to shake off the fatigue from the long walk, but the weight of the day is already pressing on your shoulders. You join the line of workers filtering through the entrance, each person walking with the same sense of resigned determination. No one speaks much as you pass through, though the occasional mutter or cough punctuates the otherwise steady stream of workers. "Morning," someone says, as you step past them, their voice hoarse as always. The men and women who work here don't have much to say to each other. Everyone is tired, their faces drawn, from days spent toiling in the same grueling tasks day after day. The camaraderie is there, but it's silent, unspoken. You nod in return, but the words don't come. There's no need. The work, the noise, the factory itself all speak louder than anything you could say. The heavy wooden doors creak open as you approach, and the moment you step inside, the atmosphere changes. The cold air from the outside is replaced by a stifling, almost oppressive heat. The factory is alive with motion, and every corner seems to pulse with activity. The air is thick with coal dust, a fine black powder that clings to everything: the walls, the floor, the machines, and your skin. It coats your lungs with every breath, making the air seem heavier, harder to breathe. You cough involuntarily, but there's no time to worry about that now. You push on past the other workers, trying not to let the stifling heat or the dust get to you. The factory floor stretches out before you, a cavernous, echoing space filled with massive machines that hum and clank in their endless rhythm. The machinery seems to be alive, as though it has a mind of its own, operating without rest or mercy. The deafening sound of gears grinding against each other fills the air, the sharp, repetitive clatter almost drowning out all other noise. The factory is a mechanical beast, its insides a maze of pipes, belts, and pulleys, all working together in a cacophony of noise and motion. You've grown used to it, but it doesn't make it any easier to bear. It's a sound that never stops, never takes a break, and it invades your every thought. Get to work, a voice shouts from somewhere near the front, snapping you out of your daze. It's the foreman, his voice booming over the noise of the factory, demanding that the workers fall into line. You move quickly, heading toward your assigned area, your feet sinking slightly into the soot-covered floor. There's no room for hesitation here. The foreman's eyes are always watching, and he expects results, nothing less. You find your station, a small area near one of the machines. The space is cramped, crowded with workers who, like you, are simply trying to get through the day without getting hurt or falling behind. The machine in front of you is enormous. Its wheels spin rapidly. Its gears turn with a deafening screech. You've learned to tune out the noise to focus only on the task at hand. There's no room for distraction, not in a place like this. Your job is simple: feed the machine, keep it running, and make sure the raw materials are processed in time for the next cycle. But even the simplest task here is dangerous. The machines are old, their gears worn down from years of constant use. There's no proper maintenance, no safety regulations to keep the workers safe. If you slip, if you make a mistake, it could be the last one you ever make. As you begin your work, you can feel the weight of the factory pressing down on you. The air is thick with dust and sweat, and the constant motion of the machines makes everything feel unstable. You can feel the vibrations in your bones, the hum of the engines resonating in the walls. The heat from the machines makes it hard to focus, and the air smells of burnt coal and oil, a mixture that lingers in your nostrils and on your clothes long after you leave. You wipe your brow, but the sweat is quickly replaced by more as the day goes on. The machines never stop. They grind and hum, day in and day out, and you're expected to keep up with them. Every once in a while, you glance up at the other workers. Most of them are focused on their own tasks, their faces blank with exhaustion. They move with a sense of efficiency, their bodies used to the repetitive motion, their eyes deadened by the daily grind. There's little conversation among the workers. What is there to say? Everyone here knows the rules: do your job, don't complain, and don't get in the way. The foreman watches you, his eyes constantly scanning the floor for mistakes. His presence is like a weight hanging over you, making every movement feel like a potential error. You move with the machine, adding materials when needed, checking the output, keeping your hands steady. But even as you work, you can feel the danger that lingers around every corner. The machines are unpredictable. One slip, one misstep, and you could lose a finger, a hand, or worse. The workers who came before you all have their stories, stories of lost fingers, severed limbs, even those who were caught in the machines and never seen again. It's the price of working in a place like this, and you've learned to accept it. You've seen enough accidents to know that they happen to someone every day. You try not to think about it, to keep your hands moving and your focus sharp. But the fear is always there, lurking in the back of your mind. The heat from the machines makes it difficult to breathe, the air thick with soot and steam. It's hard to see through the haze of smoke that fills the factory, and the flickering light from the gas lamps doesn't help. The dust is everywhere, coating your skin, your clothes, even your hair. By midday, your face is streaked with grime, your eyes watering from the dust that's impossible to avoid. You rub your eyes, but it does little to clear the sting. The factory is relentless, its demands unyielding. You're just another worker, another cog in the machine. A sharp pain shoots through your right arm as you pull a lever to adjust one of the machines. You wince, but keep moving, ignoring the twinge of pain. There's no time to stop, no time to rest. You push through the ache, pushing yourself to finish the task. The factory doesn't care if you're tired, if you're hurt. It needs to run. It needs to produce. And so do you. The hours drag on, each minute slipping by in a blur of motion and noise. Your hands are raw, your back aching from the constant strain. The factory floor is chaotic, filled with the noise of machinery, the sound of clanging metal, and the constant hum of the engines. You try not to think about how much longer you have to go. Time feels like it's slipping away, but it never moves fast enough. Every shift feels like it's twice as long as it should be. The air heavier, the work more exhausting. As you work, you glance up at the clock on the wall. The hours have passed, but it feels like no time at all. The factory hasn't stopped, and neither have you. The work is endless, the machines unyielding, and the only thing that keeps you going is the knowledge that you can't afford to stop. You can't afford to be weak, to show any signs of slowing down. This is survival, pure and simple. If you don't keep up, if you don't keep moving, nothing is waiting for you but failure. The foreman calls out from across the factory floor, his voice cutting through the noise. "Get back to work," he shouts, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of hesitation. You nod quickly, your heart pounding, and return to the task at hand. There's no time for hesitation here. There's no time for fear. The factory is a beast, and you are nothing but a small part of it, one of many who feed its hunger for productivity. The rest of the day passes in a blur, the noise, the heat, and the pressure building with every moment. You continue to work, continue to feed the machine, your body moving on autopilot as you focus on the task at hand. You've been here long enough to know that if you stop, even for a moment, it could cost you everything. Finally, the workday ends. The factory doesn't care about your exhaustion, doesn't care about the ache in your bones or the grime that covers you. It just keeps moving, keeps running, while you and the other workers file out, tired, dirty, and broken in body and spirit. As you step out into the cold night air, the noise of the factory fades into the distance, but the weight of the day still hangs over you. Another day in the factory, another day of survival, another day in the grind. The factory floor is a world of relentless noise. It greets you like an old, uncaring friend. The hum of the machinery vibrating through your bones the moment you step inside. The air is thick, heavy with dust and coal smoke hanging like a blanket over the workers. The temperature is stifling the heat from the machines burning your skin, while the stagnant air feels like it's pressing down on your chest, making it harder to breathe with every passing minute. You can hear the sounds before you even see them. The clank of metal on metal, the steady rhythm of gears grinding the shrill whistle of the steam engines that run the machines. The factory is a monster of industry, and you are just one small cog in its enormous mechanism grinding away with the others. There's no time to adjust, no time to breathe, just the overwhelming pull of the work that has to be done. You move quickly, instinctively, following the rhythm of the factory. The work here doesn't stop. It's a non-stop cycle, and you've learned to keep pace or be left behind. There's no room for hesitation. The machines are unforgiving, their massive gears and pulleys spinning with an unrelenting force. You've learned the hard way that if you stop, if you fall behind, there will be consequences. So you don't stop. You keep your head down, focus on the task at hand, and push through the exhaustion. There's no choice. "Careful with that one," a voice calls out from the other side of the room. It's one of your fellow workers, his voice strained and hoarse from hours of shouting over the noise. He's warning you, but you already know. The machines don't care if you're tired, if you're hurting. They don't stop for anyone. One mistake, one wrong move, and the consequences can be severe. You glance at the massive machine in front of you, a towering beast of iron and steam. It hums and rattles its gears, turning with precision, its sharp edges glinting in the dim light. You've learned how to feed it, how to work with it. But every day, it feels like it's one step away from crushing you. The belts move faster than your hands can keep up, but you have to keep pace. If you don't, if you falter, you'll hold up the line. And that's not something you can afford to do. Not here. Not in this factory. The machines never stop, and neither do you. The hours on one bleeding into the next, until the only thing you can focus on is the rhythm of your hands moving in time with the gears. The work is repetitive, simple almost, but that's what makes it exhausting. It's the same task over and over, with no variation, no respite. You move a lever, you feed the raw materials into the machine, you check the output, and then you start all over again. Each motion is automatic, now a part of your body's memory, but that doesn't make it any easier. The physical strain is constant. Your arms ache from the repetitive movement, your back protests from the bending, and your legs grow stiff from standing for hours on end. There's no time to sit, no time to rest. The factory doesn't care if you're tired. It needs you to keep going. The mental exhaustion is worse. You don't even think about the work anymore. Not really. It's all instinct, putting in the raw materials, adjusting the settings, watching the machine run. There's no room for thinking, no time to consider what else is going on in the world. Your brain turns off, becomes numb, because that's the only way to survive. There's nothing else to focus on except the work. And yet, in the back of your mind, you wonder how much longer you can keep this up. How much longer can you survive in this machine of endless labor? One more hour. You mutter under your breath, watching the clock on the far wall. The seconds tick by slowly, but they're never slow enough. The factory doesn't care about your sense of time, your exhaustion, or your aching body. The work has to be done, and you'll do it. But it's harder. With every passing minute, harder to keep your hands steady, harder to keep your eyes from growing heavy with fatigue. The noise is deafening, a constant hum that fills your ears until it's the only sound you can hear. You've grown used to it, or at least you tell yourself that. But deep down, you know it's wearing on you. The sharp clanging of metal, the rhythmic pulse of the machines, the hiss of steam, it never stops. And you never stop either. Is it ever going to end? You hear a worker beside you whisper, though the words are almost lost in the noise. They sound like they're asking themselves more than anyone else. You glance at them, their face as tired as yours, their clothes dirty, their hands rough from years of working the same machines day in and day out. You both know the answer, but neither of you speaks it aloud. There's no need to. The answer is clear in the air around you, in the clanking of the gears, in the way your body is beginning to betray you. You look up for a moment, trying to focus on something outside the factory, something beyond the machines, but there's nothing. The windows are covered in grime, the air thick with coal dust. There's no escape from this place. The world outside feels far away, distant, as if it belongs to another life, a life that doesn't involve the never-ending cycle of work, of exhaustion, of labor. You turn your attention back to the task at hand, your hands moving instinctively, feeding the machine. The gears grind, the steam hisses, and you're swallowed up once again by the factory. The hours drag on one after the other, and you begin to lose track of time. All that matters now is the work, the endless movement of your hands, the unrelenting hum of the factory. Every part of you aches, every muscle screams in protest, but you can't stop. You can't slow down. If you do, there will be someone else who will take your place, someone who is stronger, faster, more willing to keep pushing through the pain. You know this. You've seen it happen to others. The factory doesn't care about you. It just needs you to keep moving, to keep working. The foreman's voice cuts through the noise, harsh and grating. Keep it moving, you lot, faster. The line isn't going to feed itself. The command is sharp, without any warmth. and the workers all move just a little faster, knowing that any delay could be met with punishment. The foreman's eyes are always watching, scanning the floor for mistakes. His gaze is a constant pressure reminding you that this is not a place for weakness. You nod, your body moving faster, your hands working more quickly, but there's no real relief. The pain in your arms grows, the stiffness in your legs becomes almost unbearable, but you keep going because there's no other choice. The factory doesn't stop, and neither do you. You can hear the workers around you, their sighs, their grunts of effort, their muttered complaints, but they don't stop. No one stops. There's no room for it here. You all just keep moving, keep feeding the machines, keep working, because the factory will not wait. It never waits. Hours pass, or maybe it's only been minutes. Time has become a blur, a haze of noise and motion. The light from the gas lamps flickers above you, casting long shadows across the factory floor. You wipe the sweat from your brow, but it's quickly replaced by more. Your shirt is damp, sticking to your back, and the coal dust clings to your skin, covering you in layers of grime. Your eyes burn from the dust, but there's nothing you can do. The work must be done. You glance at the clock again, but it's no use. The time has stopped mattering. The only thing that matters is the work. The factory will never stop. It's always there, always waiting for you to feed it, to keep it running. And you, like all the others, will continue to work day after day until your body gives out or the machines claim you. Either way, the factory doesn't care. Just a few more hours, you mutter to yourself, though you're not sure if it's a prayer or a curse. You keep working, you keep moving, you keep feeding the machine because that's what you've been taught to do. The factory doesn't care about your pain, it just needs you to work. And so you do. The hours seem to bleed into each other, one after the next, as the factory's relentless rhythm continues. You've become so accustomed to the noise, the constant deafening hum of machines, the clanging of metal, the rhythmic pulse of gears turning, and steam hissing that it no longer surprises you. In fact, it almost feels like it's a part of you now, ingrained into your very bones. But beneath the sounds, beneath the layers of grime that coat your skin, and the ache in your muscles, you know something is happening to your body. The factory, with all its noise and demands, has begun to take its toll. As you work, your arms feel heavier than they did when you first started this job. The constant motion, the constant lifting, and carrying the repetitive tasks, they've worn you down. The work isn't particularly difficult in the sense that it requires skill, but it's exhausting, relentless. There's never a break. Every part of you aches your back, from bending your arms, from lifting your legs, from standing for hours on end. You've developed what they call factory legs, a strange phenomenon where your legs become stiff and sore from standing in one place for so long. You shift from foot to foot, trying to find a comfortable position, but there is none. The pressure builds in your legs, your knees aching with every step, but it doesn't matter. You don't have the luxury of stopping, of giving in to the pain. The foreman's voice cuts through the noise, calling out for you to move faster, to work harder. You glance up, nodding, and force yourself to move more quickly. But it feels like you're fighting against your own body now. Your legs are heavy, Your feet are sore, and every muscle feels like it's being pushed to its limit. You can feel the weariness creeping in, gnawing at you. But there's no room for that here. Not in this place. You wipe the sweat from your brow, only to have more replace it instantly. The air in the factory is thick with dust, coal dust, machine oil, and the grime of the factory floor. And you know that every breath you take is filled with particles that will only make things worse. You've already noticed the shortness of breath, the wheeze that lingers in your chest by the end of the day. But it's nothing unusual, you tell yourself. It's just part of the job, part of the sacrifice. The factory workers around you are all in the same boat. You've seen them cough hack and spit out the blackened muck from their lungs at the end of a shift. You've seen them wipe their noses only to see blood stains on the rag. The dust settles into your lungs. It clogs your airways, and you wonder how much longer you can take it. But you keep going, don't you? Because what else can you do? You're not the only one with sore legs, sore arms, or a hoarse voice from the dust. Everyone here is suffering, and yet no one complains. That's the way it works in this factory. You keep going, you keep working, no matter the pain, no matter the cost. You shift again, your back protesting the movement. It's a dull, constant ache now, a reminder that you've spent far too many hours hunched over machines, lifting, pulling, pushing. The machines don't stop. They never stop. And you know you can't stop either. You've seen what happens to the workers who falter, those who can't keep up. They're quickly replaced, sent away without hesitation. There's always someone ready to take your place, someone who can endure what you cannot. Another hour to go. You mutter to yourself, though. The thought does nothing to comfort you. The pain in your legs feels like it's creeping up your spine, the ache deepening with every movement. The factory legs you've developed are more than just a nickname. They're a real physical reminder of how much this work takes out of you. Standing for hours on end without rest, without reprieve, it wears on you, grinds you down, until the very act of moving feels like a struggle. You glance over at one of your fellow workers, an older man who's been at the factory longer than you. His face is streaked with soot, his eyes sunken from the endless fatigue, and his hands are swollen from years of hard work. His legs, like yours, are stiff, his movements slow and deliberate, but still he works. The factory doesn't care how tired you are. It doesn't care about your body, your age, or your injuries. It just needs you to keep working, keep producing, and he knows that. "You all right, mate?" You ask him, your voice hoarse from the dust. You know the answer before you even ask it. It's the same every day. No one is ever really all right here. But it's a question that has to be asked. It's the only form of solidarity you can offer in a place like this. He looks up at you, his eyes bloodshot and tired. A small, knowing smile tugs at the corner of his lips. "I'll survive," he says, though the words are far from reassuring. "We all do, don't we?" You nod, but there's no real comfort in the words. The truth is, you don't know how long you'll survive. Not in this place. Not with the constant strain on your body, the constant threat of injury, of illness, of losing everything. But you keep moving, don't you? Because that's all you can do. The factory doesn't stop, and neither can you. The clatter of machinery is deafening now, the sound of metal against metal, the hiss of steam, the relentless rhythm of the factory floor. You barely notice it anymore, the noise blending into the background of your thoughts. But today, it feels louder than usual, almost as if the machines are mocking you with their ceaseless demands. Your body aches, your legs are stiff, your chest feels tight from the dust that clings to your lungs, and yet you keep moving. You reach for another piece of raw material, feed it into the machine, and wait for the next cycle to begin. As you work, you feel the familiar tightness in your chest. It's the dust, the air, the long hours of labor. You cough, and the sound is dry, harsh, like something scraping at your throat. It's not the first time this has happened, and it probably won't be the last. But every time it happens, you wonder how much longer you can take it. How much longer until your body gives out, until your legs can no longer carry you, until your lungs can no longer breathe. You try to ignore it, to push through, but the nagging thought is always there. You've seen others around you, young, strong men who've been sent home unable to work their bodies, worn down by the factory's demands. Some are sent away with nothing but a few coins, their lives cut short by the relentless grind of the machines. Others limp off their arms or legs bandaged, but their dignity gone. You've seen it happen, and each time it's a reminder of what you're risking. Keep going. Keep going. You mutter to yourself, trying to shake off the thoughts. But the fatigue, the pain, the dust, they are ever present, and there's no escaping them. There's no time to think, no room for hesitation. You've learned to focus on the task at hand, to push the pain aside, to ignore the toll it takes on your body. Hours pass, or maybe it's only been minutes. Time has lost all meaning in this place. The machines hum, the gears grind, and you keep moving, feeding the machine, keeping up with the unrelenting pace. The noise fills your ears, the dust fills your lungs, and your body grows heavier with each passing moment. But you keep going. There's no choice. There never was. Finally, the bell rings, signaling the end of the shift. The noise of the factory dies down, the machinery slowly winding to a halt. You feel the weight of the day lift from your shoulders, but not entirely. The fatigue, the ache in your muscles, the shortness of your breath, they stay with you. You push past the other workers, heading toward the exit, your legs stiff and sore, your body exhausted. As you step into the fresh air, the contrast is immediate. The cold wind hits your face, a sharp reminder that there's still a world beyond the factory, beyond the grind. But even as you step away from the machines, you know that tomorrow it will all start again. The factory never stops, and neither do you. You glance around at the other workers, their faces just as tired as yours, their bodies just as worn. They don't look back, don't speak. There's no time for pleasantries. You all walk in the same direction toward your homes, toward another day of survival. The factory floor never seems to quiet, never seems to let up. As you move through the rows of workers, your eyes sweep across the familiar faces of your fellow laborers, each of them just as tired as you. The machinery hums and roars in the background, its rhythmic thumping nearly drowning out the noises of the workers themselves. It's a world you've come to know all too well, where every day is a fight to get through, and every hour is filled with the constant whir of machines and the stench of coal dust. But today, something catches your eye, a small figure moving alongside the workers. A child, no more than 5, holding a small bucket of materials, their small hands trembling under the weight. You watch for a moment as the child moves slowly through the factory floor, their face pale and drawn, their small body already exhausted from the labor. The child stumbles slightly as they carry the heavy load, their tiny legs struggling to keep up with the demands of the factory. Your heart sinks in your chest as you realize this is not an isolated incident. The child is not alone. All around you, other children, boys and girls, no older than your own children, perhaps younger, are hard at work, their small bodies hunched over the machines, their faces tired and their movements sluggish. It's not the first time you've seen this, but today it feels different. Today it feels heavier. The sight of those small hands gripping the machines, those tiny bodies bending under the weight of labor, is a stark reminder of the harshness of this life, of the toll it takes on the young, the innocent. You've always known that children worked in factories, that they were a part of the machinery that kept the industrial engine running, but seeing it in person, seeing those tiny bodies, those innocent faces, makes the reality of it all feel too much to bear. You glance around, looking for your own children, though you know they're not here, at least not yet. You can't imagine sending them into a place like this. You can't imagine them working beside you, their small hands struggling to keep up their fragile bodies, wearing out under the same strain you feel every day. The thought makes your stomach churn, but there's no time to dwell on it. You have to keep moving, have to keep working just like everyone else. There's no room for hesitation, no room for weakness. Not here, not in this place. As you continue working, your mind wanders back to the child you saw. You wonder about their family, about the parents who sent them into this factory, about the hope that drove them to put their children to work instead of keeping them in school where they belong. The factory is no place for a child, yet here they are just like the others. You've seen families torn apart by the need to survive, parents doing whatever it takes to keep their children fed, even if it means sending them into the very machine that's slowly grinding them down. It's a cruel cycle, one that you fear your own children might one day be trapped in. You try not to think about it, but the thought lingers heavy in your mind. If you can't make enough money, if you can't feed them, if you can't give them a life outside of this factory, what will become of them? Will they too be forced to work in these same cold, dangerous conditions just as you are now? Will they grow up with the same aches in their bodies, the same tired eyes, the same grim acceptance of a life that never gives them the chance to rest? Don't think about it, you tell yourself, but the words feel empty. The thought keeps creeping back into your mind like a shadow that won't leave. You steal another glance at the child who is now leaning against one of the machines, their head down, their small shoulders slumped under the weight of the work. It takes everything in you not to go to them, to scoop them up and carry them away from this place, away from the danger, the noise, the unrelenting machines. But you know that if you stop, if you even hesitate for a second, there will be consequences. This is a place where hesitation is a luxury no one can afford. The foreman walks by, his eyes scanning the workers for any sign of weakness, any sign that someone might not be pulling their weight. He doesn't look at the children. He doesn't see them, or if he does, he doesn't care. The children are just as much a part of the machinery here as the workers, their small bodies just another cog in the factory's endless gears. You feel a pang of anger, but it quickly fades, replaced by a heavy resignation. The factory doesn't care about your feelings, doesn't care about the children or the families or the toll it takes on their bodies. It only cares about productivity, about getting the work done. You move to your next task, trying to focus on the work at hand, but the image of the child remains with you. You can't shake it. Their tired face, their fragile form, the way they struggle to carry the load. They are far too young for this, far too small to be here yet. Here they are just like you, just like everyone else. You try to push the thought away, but it's hard. It's so hard to keep your mind from wandering, from imagining what kind of future your children might have if things don't change. Hey, a voice interrupts your thoughts. It's one of the older workers, someone you've known for years. He looks at you, his face drawn with the same exhaustion that marks every worker in this factory. You look like you're miles away, he says, his voice hoarse, like it always is, after hours of shouting over the noise. What's on your mind? You glance at him, surprised that he noticed, but then you remember that the workers here are all so in tune with each other's pain, each other's weariness. Everyone knows when someone is struggling, even when they don't speak it. You try to smile, but it feels forced, like something you're doing just to get through the day. Just thinking, you say, quietly. It's hard, isn't it? Seeing them, the children working here. They shouldn't be here. The older man nods, his face grim. Ain't nothing we can do about it. The factory's hungry for workers, young or old. They don't care who they take as long as the work gets done. You want to argue with him, to say that it's not right, that children shouldn't have to suffer like this. But you know he's right. There's nothing you can do. The factory doesn't listen to complaints, doesn't listen to moral arguments. It listens only to the sound of the machines, the sound of work being done. I know you say your voice quiet, but it doesn't make it any easier to see. He doesn't respond, but he doesn't need to. You both know the truth. The children work because their families need them to. They have no choice. It's the same for you, the same for everyone in this factory. Everyone works, and everyone suffers. The factory doesn't care about age or health or the toll it takes. It just needs workers. And the children are as expendable as anyone else. You return to your task, but the thought of the children lingers in your mind. You can't stop thinking about them, about what kind of future they will have in this place. Will they live like this forever? Just another generation, trapped in the same cycle of exhaustion and pain. Will they ever know? A life outside of this factory, outside of the machines that seem to define everything. The rest of the shift goes by in a blur. the hours stretching on endlessly. The noise, the dust, the exhaustion all blend, and you move through it mechanically, your mind clouded by the image of that child, of the other children who share the same fate. You can't help but feel a deep, overwhelming sadness for them. They're just so small, so young, and yet they're already here, already caught in the same grind that you are. As the shift comes to an end, you gather your things, your body sore and aching from the long hours. The factory's noise begins to fade as the workers file out, heading home to their families or to their next shift. But you can't shake the thought of the children, the workers who are too young to be here, but are forced to labor nonetheless. You wonder what will become of them, what will become of your own children, and whether they will ever have a chance to escape this life. For now, you don't know the answers. All you know is that tomorrow the factory will be waiting, and the children will be there just like you, caught in the same unrelenting cycle of work and survival. The factory bell rings to signal the end of the shift, and just like that, your body seems to remember the hunger that has been gnawing at you throughout the day. It's a hunger you've learned to live with, a constant companion that lingers in the pit of your stomach, urging you to eat, to fill the emptiness, but never quite allowing you to forget it. There's no time to enjoy a meal, no time to savor the food you have. It's a matter of survival. You eat quickly, your hands shaking slightly, trying to make the most of whatever scraps you've managed to bring with you. But even the simplest meal seems too much to ask for. As you head home, your mind wanders to the thought of food. It's something you rarely allow yourself to dwell on because you know there's little point. You can't afford to dream of anything extravagant, anything beyond the bread and potatoes that are the staples of your diet. There's no room for luxury in this life. Food is a means to an end, a necessity, but it's never enough. Never enough to fill the hunger. The walk back to your home is slow, your body aching from the long hours in the factory, your mind preoccupied with the thought of what's waiting for you when you get there. You know what's for dinner. You know there's not much there, never is. Your children, who are already home and waiting for you, will be hungry too. They'll be tired just like you, but their hunger will be worse, sharper. They're growing, after all, and growing bodies need more than just scraps. You've done what you can to make sure they have something to eat, but sometimes it feels like you're just putting out fires, trying to feed them enough to get through the day, never truly filling them up. You turn the corner, and your house comes into view. The cold air seems to press against you harder now, as if the whole world is trying to squeeze the warmth out of you. You pull your coat tighter around you, trying to protect yourself from the cold that never seems to let up. When you reach the door, you push it open with a small sigh of relief. At least you're home. But the warmth that greets you is faint. The fire, though still burning, is barely enough to chase the chill from the room. It's always this way, just enough to make the space bearable, but not enough to make you feel truly comfortable. Your partner is already there, bent over the stove, stirring a pot of something. It doesn't smell like nothing fancy, just a simple stew made from whatever scraps were left over. You can tell by the way they move that they're just as tired as you are. The lines on their face are deeper today, the exhaustion clearer. There's no comfort to be found here, not in the food, or the warmth, but at least you're together. How much do we have left? You ask, already knowing the answer. You don't need to hear it, but you ask anyway, as if you can somehow will things to be better with a simple question. Your partner glances up at you, their face tired but kind. Not much, just enough for tonight. They reply, their voice low and weary. It's going to be tight until the next payday. You nod, the reality of it sinking in again. The days blur together. Work, hunger, work again. And then the fight to put a simple meal together. The potatoes, the bread, the oats, they are the backbone of every meal. The things you can rely on. There's no variety, no luxury. What little you have, you share. There is no room for waste. You sit down at the small table, the children already crowding around their faces, tired, their eyes wide with hunger. The air is thick with anticipation, but there's no excitement. There's no joy in eating when you've been hungry for so long. There's just relief. Relief that you have something to eat, that you can fill your stomach, even if just for a moment. The children dive into their bowls, their spoons clattering against the sides. Their hunger is palpable. Their small hands shaking slightly as they eat too quickly, not wanting to waste a single bite. Is there more? Your eldest asks, their voice muffled by a mouthful of potatoes. The question is a simple one, but it feels heavy. You know what they're asking, even if they don't say it outright. They want to know if there's enough for them to have more enough to fill the emptiness they've been carrying all day. You glance at the pot on the stove, just a few spoonfuls, left barely enough to feed everyone. You hesitate before answering, knowing there's not enough. Not much more, you say, your voice soft, trying to mask the guilt that twists in your gut. We'll have enough for tomorrow. Your partner looks up at you, their eyes tired but understanding. They don't say anything, but you both know the truth. Tomorrow will come, but it won't bring more food. It will bring more work, more strain, more hunger. And then the next day will come, and the cycle will repeat itself. There's no escape from it, no way out of the constant struggle to survive. The children finish their meal quickly, scraping the bottoms of their bowls in search of any last remnants. You sit there watching them, knowing that they're still hungry, still craving something more. But there's nothing else to give. The bread has already been rationed. The potatoes are nearly gone, and the stew is just a thin broth with a few chunks of root vegetables floating in it. There's no room for anything more, no way to make the meal more filling, more satisfying. You sigh softly, pushing your own plate away, though your stomach still growls in protest. You've learned to ignore it. There's no point in dwelling on it. The hunger will always be there, just beneath the surface. Tomorrow, we'll have to make do with what we have, your partner says, as if reading your mind. You nod again, not needing to say anything in response. You both know the drill by now. There's no time for anything else. Just another day of scraping by. Just another day of surviving. The children finish their food and get up from the table, moving sluggishly toward the corner of the room to start their evening chores. The exhaustion from the day's work weighs heavily on all of you, and even the simplest tasks feel like monumental efforts. You feel the weight of it too. The hunger, the tiredness, the knowing that tomorrow will bring more of the same. The factory, the long walk, the constant strain of trying to make ends meet. You can't escape it. There's no room for anything but survival. As you sit there in the dim light of the fire, the silence growing heavier around you, you reflect on the reality of it all. The food, though scarce, is the one thing that keeps you going. Without it, there's nothing, and yet it never feels like enough. It's always a struggle, always a race to make sure there's enough for the next meal. You try to stay positive, try to push the hunger down, but it's a constant presence, a reminder that no matter how hard you work, no matter how much you sacrifice, there's never enough. You push yourself to your feet, feeling the weight of the day in every movement. The evening chores await firewood to chop the children, to bathe the bed, to prepare for another long, restless night. But for now, at least you've eaten. For now, at least you've done what you can to keep the hunger at bay. Tomorrow, you'll do it all again. And so, with the fire crackling softly in the background, and the last remnants of the meal slowly disappearing, you take a deep breath and get to work. There's no choice but to keep moving, to keep surviving. The hunger will come again tomorrow. But for now, you can hold it off. Just for a little while longer. The factory bell rings to signal the end of another shift, and yet it feels as though the moment it rings, the weight of the day hits you all at once. You're no longer sure if it's the physical exhaustion, the mental drain, or a combination of both that has left you feeling like you're dragging your own body across the factory floor. But one thing you do know is that you can't stop. Not now. Not yet. There's no room for rest. No space for you to let your body recover, to let your mind ease from the constant pressure. You keep moving, step after step, feeding the machines, keeping the rhythm going, even though every part of you, your muscles, your bones, your mind screams for respite. The noise of the factory still rings in your ears, even as you try to shake off the last remnants of it. The constant whirring of gears, the pounding of hammers, the clanking of metal against metal. It's a cacophony that has become as familiar to you as the sound of your own breath. But today, it's louder than usual. Today, the noise seems to pierce through your skull, vibrating in your temples, making it hard to focus on anything else. You move through the factory, your hands working on autopilot, doing the same tasks over and over, trying to make the hours go by faster. You glance around, but you don't see anyone else. The workers, the ones who usually surround you, all seem to be in the same trance-robotic movements, tired eyes, faces devoid of expression. No one talks. There's no need for conversation when everyone is so exhausted. The only thing that matters is getting through the day without collapsing, without being sent home because you couldn't keep up. You know the factory doesn't care if you're tired, doesn't care if you're sick, doesn't care about anything except that you work and that you work well. And so you keep going, your body moving because it has no other choice. You glance at the clock on the wall. Hours have passed, or maybe only minutes. It's hard to say anymore. Time has a way of distorting in here, stretching and contracting like a rubber band. But the ache in your body is real. Your legs are sore from standing on the hard concrete floor all day. Your back aches from the constant bending, and repetitive motions of lifting, twisting, and pushing. Your hands are raw blistered from the constant friction against rough surfaces, but you don't stop. You can't. The factory doesn't give you the luxury of stopping. Keep it moving, you mutter under your breath, though no one else is around to hear. The words are more of a command to yourself than to anyone else. It's what you've had to tell yourself every day. The mental exhaustion of working in these conditions is like a fog that settles over your mind, dulling everything. Every task feels like it takes twice as long as it should. You can't think straight anymore. The only thing you know is the factory, the machines, and the rhythm of your labor. Your stomach growls, reminding you that hunger is another constant companion. But it's not enough to break your focus. You haven't eaten much today, but that's nothing new. The meals are small, simple, just enough to keep you going, but never enough to really fill you up. It doesn't matter. There's no time to think about food when there's work to be done. Your body feels weak, but it's a weakness that's become familiar. It's part of this life, this never-ending cycle of exhaustion and survival. You push the thought of hunger aside, just like you push the thought of rest aside, just like you push the thought of anything but the work itself aside. A sharp jolt of pain shoots through your right shoulder, and you wince, but there's no time to stop. You shake your head slightly, trying to clear the dizziness that started to settle in your vision. The pain in your shoulder is sharp, persistent, but you force yourself to ignore it. There's no room for weakness. You don't have the luxury of taking a break. If you stop now, someone else will take your place, and that thought alone is enough to push you back into the grind. A voice calls out from across the factory floor, breaking the rhythm of the machines. It's one of your co-workers, a woman who's been here almost as long as you. You've exchanged words in passing, but today the exhaustion is so thick in the air that even speaking feels like too much effort. She looks at you, her face drawn, her eyes heavy with fatigue, and she waves weakly in your direction. "You all right?" She calls, her voice rough from hours of shouting over the noise. Her eyes search your face, looking for any sign of life, any sign of strength. You nod, though it feels like a lie. "Yeah, just tired." She smiles faintly, but the smile doesn't reach her eyes. "Yeah, I know the feeling. It's never ending, isn't it? The work, the noise, the aches. I don't think I've felt rested in years." Her words hit you harder than you expect. They resonate in the deep, exhausted parts of your body that you've been ignoring all day. The truth is, you haven't felt rested in years either. You can't remember the last time you woke up without aches in your muscles, without the weight of exhaustion pressing down on you from the moment you open your eyes. The last time you felt truly rested, truly free of the strain of work, feels like a lifetime ago. I don't think any of us have. You reply quietly, your voice thick with the weight of it all. You watch as she returns to her task, her shoulders hunched, her movements slow and deliberate. She's been here so long that the motions have become second nature. The exhaustion, a part of her now, just like it's become part of you. The factory doesn't care. The machines don't care. It's all about productivity, and no one stops, no one rests. The rhythm of the factory is like the beat of a drum that never stops. And the workers, all of you, are just the instruments forced to play the same tune day after day. You try to find some way to push through, to make it to the end of the shift, without breaking, without stopping. But the physical and mental exhaustion are starting to collide in a way that's hard to ignore. Your legs feel like lead, your arms like dead weights, and your mind is cloudy, filled with static. The next few hours are a blur, each task blending into the next. You move mechanically, feeding the machines, adjusting the settings, monitoring the output, but it all feels like it's happening to someone else, not to you. The repetitive motions are numbing both physically and mentally. Your hands are stiff from gripping the tools, your legs sore from standing, and your back aches from bending. But you keep moving. You don't stop. And then, just as you think you can't push any further, the factory bell rings again. The shift is over, but the exhaustion remains. It's a weight that won't leave you, no matter how much you rest. The factory has taken its toll on your body. Your legs, your arms, your shoulders, all ache in ways that are becoming all too familiar. And your mind. Your mind feels the strain, too clouded by the endless hours, the repetitive tasks, the noise. You've learned to live with it, to accept it, because there's no other option. The work doesn't stop, and neither do you. As you gather your things, preparing to leave for the day, you glance around at the other workers. They, too, are tired, just as tired as you. Some of them don't even look up as they gather their belongings, their bodies moving on autopilot, like machines themselves. You wonder if they too feel the strain of it, all the weight of the work that never ends. You wonder if they too have days when they don't think they can take another step, but somehow they keep going. You made it through today, you tell yourself quietly as you walk toward the exit. It's a small comfort, but it's something. Tomorrow, you'll wake up, do it all over again, and keep moving, because that's all you can do. The factory doesn't care about your tired legs, your aching back, or your weary mind. It only cares that you keep working, keep producing, keep moving. And so you do. You keep moving. The factory's bell rings sharply, signaling the start of another long shift. You've already felt the familiar tightening in your chest, the low, gnawing anxiety that always hits as you prepare for another day in this place. The noise is constant, the loud clanging of metal against metal, the rhythmic hum of the machines, and it fills the air like a weight pressing down on you. The machines themselves, towering behemoths of iron and steel, seem to loom over you as you walk through the factory floor. They're always moving, always demanding, relentless in their need for production. and you are just another worker caught in their gears. But today, as you move through the factory, there's something different in the air. The sense of danger, always present, seems to grow stronger, more palpable. You've been here long enough to know how the machines work, how to avoid getting too close to the dangerous parts. But it's never a sure thing. You've seen enough accidents to know that safety is more a matter of luck than anything else. You've learned to move quickly to keep your eyes sharp, but you also know that one wrong step could change everything. The factory isn't designed for safety. It's designed for efficiency, for speed, for production. The machines are loud and fast, their gears turning at a pace that leaves no room for mistakes. You've seen workers, like the man who used to stand next to you at the assembly line, lose their fingers, their arms, and worse. There's no safety net here, no rules, no regulations to protect the workers. It's survival of the fittest. You've heard the whispers of other workers who have fallen victim to the factory's cold indifference. One man crushed under a pile of metal, another who lost his arm to a machine that never stopped. And yet, the work continues. There is no room for error, no time for caution. "Be careful over there," a voice calls out from behind you, startling you from your thoughts. It's one of the older workers, a man who's been here longer than you. His face is hard, his eyes bloodshot, and his hands are rough with years of labor. You nod, trying to mask the unease that's begun to creep up your spine. "I will," you say, even though you know it doesn't matter much. There's no real safety here. The factory doesn't care about your well-being, only that you keep working, that you keep the machines running. If you're injured, if something goes wrong, they'll just find someone else to take your place. You continue your work, but the sense of danger lingers, a constant companion as you move through the factory. The machines hum and vibrate under your fingertips as you feed the raw materials into their hungry mouths. Each movement feels more perilous than the last, and you can't help but notice the wear and tear on your co-workers' bodies. The man across from you is limping, his leg still swollen from a work-related injury. Another woman in the corner is wrapping a bandage around her hand, the skin raw and torn from where it was caught between the gears. You watch them, but you don't speak. There's no time for conversation here, only work, only the constant push to get the job done. The air is thick with dust, the coal smoke from the furnaces lingering in every corner of the factory. The dust clogs your throat and nose, and with every breath you feel it settle deeper into your lungs. You've heard rumors about workers who have died young from the respiratory illnesses caused by the dust, the soot that builds up over years of inhaling the air in this place. But no one talks about it. There's no room for fear in a place like this, only the drive to keep going, to keep working until the day ends, and you can finally collapse into your bed, exhausted but alive. Watch out. A shout pulls you back to the present, and you spin around just in time to see a piece of machinery malfunction. The gears grind to a halt with a terrible screech, the metal squealing in protest as it jams. There's a brief moment of silence, followed by the chaotic sound of workers shouting and scrambling to fix the problem. You move instinctively, your body already in motion, before your brain has even processed the situation. You know that a jam like this could mean a serious accident. You've seen the damage done before. Fingers crushed, arms torn, bodies thrown into the air like rag dolls when the machines suddenly stop. Get back, another worker yells, and you step back just in time to avoid being caught in the mess of metal. The foreman's voice booms over the noise, ordering everyone to get back to work, to keep moving, even though the problem is far from fixed. It's always like this. No one is allowed to stop. No one is allowed to take a break. Not even when the machines are malfunctioning. Not even when someone gets hurt. The factory needs to keep moving. And so you keep moving no matter what. The accident is fixed. The machine is restarted, and the noise returns just as deafening as before. But the tension in the air lingers. You can feel it in the way the other workers move, in the way they avoid making eye contact, in the way they keep their heads down, focusing on their tasks. The fear is there beneath the surface, the knowledge that an accident could happen at any moment, that the next moment might be the one when something goes wrong. But there's no choice but to keep going. If you stop, if you hesitate, there will be someone else to take your place. The factory doesn't care if you live or die. It cares only about production. You glance over at the young girl working next to you, no older than 15. She's small, barely more than a child, but she works just as hard as the rest of you. She's standing too close to the machine, her tiny hands moving with speed and precision as she feeds the raw materials into the gears. You notice how her hands shake slightly, how her face is pale from the constant exposure to dust and the heat of the machines. But she doesn't stop. She can't stop. She's already been here too long, and the factory has claimed her just like it's claimed the rest of you. You catch her eye for a brief moment, and she smiles weakly at you. But it's not a real smile. It's a smile of resignation, of acceptance. She knows as well as you do that this is her life now. This is all she'll ever know. And you wonder for a moment, what happens to the ones who don't make it out of here? What happens to the workers who get caught in the gears, who lose their limbs or their lives to the machine swarms? The factory doesn't stop for them. The machines don't stop for anyone. The hours drag on, the work never ending, the noise never ceasing. Your body aches from the constant strain, from the standing, the lifting, the bending. Your legs are stiff from the hours of standing in one spot, and your arms are sore from the repetitive motion. But you don't stop. You can't. There's no room for weakness in this place. The factory demands more of you than you can give, but it will take it anyway. The foreman's watchful eye, the constant presence of the machines, they don't care about your fatigue. They care only about the work getting done. The factory's toll on your body is obvious. Your hands are rough and calloused, your skin darkened by the soot and dust that coats you. Your back aches from bending over the machines, your legs are swollen from standing too long, and your lungs burn from the constant exposure to the coal dust. The physical exhaustion is bad enough, but the mental exhaustion is worse. Every day is the same routine, the same motions, the same fight to survive. You don't think, you just do. Your body moves on its own, your hands and feet acting without your conscious thought. The work becomes a blur. The days blend into each other, and there's nothing but the machines, the noise, the exhaustion, and the fear. But you keep moving, you keep working, because that's all you can do. Sickness and poor hygiene. The factory's oppressive hum is once again a constant companion as you step onto the floor for the start of your shift. The noise, the machinery, the constant grinding of gears, all of it feels louder today, somehow more unbearable. You blink the sleep from your eyes, rubbing your tired hands over your face. Your head is heavy, your body sluggish from exhaustion, but there's no room for hesitation. The work begins whether you're ready or not. You move to your station, hands instinctively reaching for the raw materials that need to be fed into the machine. You glance at the others working around you. Their faces are familiar, but today, something feels off. People are coughing more than usual, and a few of them are sneezing into their sleeves, but no one stops. No one even acknowledges it. The factory doesn't care if you're sick. If you're sick, you work through it, or you don't work at all. If you don't work, you don't get paid. And if you don't get paid, you don't eat. It's that simple. A woman across the floor sneezes the sound wet and desperate, but she doesn't pause. She doesn't wipe her nose, doesn't rest her weary body. She just keeps working her hands steady as she continues to feed the raw materials into the machine. She's been here longer than you, and you've seen her before. Pale with dark circles under her eyes, her body thin from the lack of food. And now you notice she's wheezing. You wonder how long she's been sick, how long she's been pushing herself through this. You know it's not just her, it's everyone here. The coughs are constant, a background noise in the factory rising and falling with the hum of the machines. You glance at the man working next to you, his face drawn, his skin a little too pale, and catch a glimpse of him, wiping his nose with the back of his hand. He doesn't seem to notice. The others just keeps moving, just keeps feeding the machine. You want to ask him if he's all right, but you know the answer. No one is all right in a place like this. The factory is crowded, the air thick with dust smoke and heat. There's no proper ventilation, and the space is cramped with workers bumping into each other as they pass their sweat and grime mixing in the oppressive atmosphere. The noise is overwhelming the machines screaming with the force of their movement, and the dust settles over everything, coating your clothes, your skin, your lungs. It's hard to breathe, but no one complains. You can feel the dust in the back of your throat, a constant irritation that has become just another part of the workday. Your thoughts turn to the illnesses that have been spreading through the factory for weeks now. It's not unusual when so many people are working in such close quarters. Sickness is inevitable. Tuberculosis, cholera, and influenza are the diseases that plague the workers here. You've seen it happen before, the slow spread of illness, the way it takes one worker, then another, then another. There's no cure, no real medicine to help, just the hope that you can tough it out long enough to survive. You catch sight of one of the older workers, a man whose hair has long since turned gray. He's bent over his station, the familiar sound of his coughing cutting through the noise of the factory. He's been sick for days, maybe even weeks, but he hasn't taken any time off. He can't afford to. You've seen this before. The man looks frail, his eyes tired, his body hunched with the effort of his work, but he keeps going. He doesn't have a choice. Is he all right? You ask the worker beside you, your voice soft, trying not to draw attention to the old man. The worker looks over and shrugs, glancing back at the machines. He'll be fine, I guess. No time to stop, not here. If you don't work, you don't eat. You nod, but the answer doesn't sit well with you. It never does. The factory doesn't care if you're sick. It doesn't care if you're tired. All it cares about is that the machines keep running, that the work keeps getting done. If someone drops out, someone else will step in to take their place. It's the way of things here. Survival is the only thing that matters. As the hours pass, the noise of the factory grows louder. The machines are relentless, their gears turning with a never-ending rhythm that fills the air. You notice more coughing now, more sneezing. A man collapses against the wall, his face pale, his body trembling, and no one seems to notice. No one stops working. It's just another casualty, another worker who has been chewed up by the factory's demands, another life lost in the grind of industry. A sharp pain shoots through your chest, and you wince your body momentarily frozen by the tightness that spreads through your lungs. You try to breathe through it, but the dust in the air makes it harder to fill your lungs. Your cough comes short and wheezy, and you quickly cover your mouth, trying not to draw attention. You've been feeling this way for days, a little out of breath, a little too tired, but you don't have time to stop and rest. The factory doesn't allow for that. If you're not working, you're not earning. And if you're not earning, there's no food. You can't afford to take a day off. Not now. You try to shake off the discomfort, but it lingers, a constant reminder of the toll the factory takes on your body. The dust, the lack of ventilation, the long hours, they all add up, and the strain on your body becomes overwhelming. You glance over at the others around you. They look the same, exhausted, their faces pale, their bodies weary from the constant strain of work. Some of them have lost weight over the past few months, their bodies thinning from the lack of proper meals. But they keep going just like you. They have no choice. The foreman's voice cuts through the noise of the factory, his harsh commands ordering everyone to move faster, to work harder. You don't hear any sympathy in his voice, no acknowledgement of the toll the work takes on the people who are doing it. It's just another demand, another push to make more, to do more. No one dares to speak up, to ask for a break, to question the conditions. The foreman would fire you on the spot if you did. So you keep going. You keep feeding the machine, moving your hands in the same motions, working as fast as your body will allow, even though every part of you is screaming for rest. By the time the lunch bell rings, you're already feeling the fatigue creeping in. Your legs are stiff, your back aches, and the cough in your chest is getting worse. You don't have much time to eat, but you take what little you can. A small piece of bread, a few scraps of potatoes, anything to fill the hole in your stomach. The food is always simple, always just enough to get you through the day. You don't have the luxury of enjoying a meal of savoring the taste. You eat quickly, barely chewing, knowing that you need to get back to work as soon as possible. There's no time to rest, no time to waste. The factory doesn't stop for anyone. The rest of the workers are eating too, their faces pale and strained, their hands shaking slightly as they hold their food. The smell of the food is almost enough to make you nauseous. There's no seasoning, no flavor, just bread, potatoes, and whatever scraps the factory can provide. It's barely enough to keep you going, but it's all you have. You glance around at the workers, at their faces, their tired eyes, and you wonder how much longer you can all keep this up. How much longer can you endure the factory's demands, the constant exposure to dust and disease, the endless work, the endless grind? You look at the others, their shoulders slumped, their bodies worn down, and you wonder how many of them are sick. How many of them are carrying the same weight that you are? The factory doesn't care. The machines don't care. They'll keep running, whether you're healthy or sick, whether you're alive or dead. The work will continue. The demand for productivity will continue, and the cycle will keep repeating itself. As the lunch break comes to an end and the bell rings to signal the return to work, you gather your things, your body protesting with every movement. The factory is waiting for you. It always is. There's no room for illness here, no room for rest, no room for anything but survival. And so you return to the machines, your body aching, your lungs heavy with the dust that fills the air. You've learned to live with it, to push through it, because that's the only choice you have. And so, you keep moving, you keep working, you keep breathing through the dust and the grime, because there's nothing else to do. The factory bell rings again, marking the end of the shift. You're not sure how much time has passed, how many hours you've spent hunched over feeding the machines, moving with the rhythm of the factory. It feels like an eternity. But the moment the bell rings, you push the exhaustion aside and begin to gather your things, even though every part of you aches from the labor. Your hands are stiff, your back is sore, and your legs feel like they're made of stone, but there's no time to dwell on it. The day is over, but that only means one thing. It's time to face the journey home. The walk feels longer today. Maybe it's the cold, the biting chill that has settled into your bones, or maybe it's just the weight of the day pressing down on you. But as you step out of the factory and into the freezing night, you feel it, the weight of the world on your shoulders, the exhaustion in your muscles, and the hunger gnawing at you. The factory's sounds, the relentless hum of the machines fade behind you, but the memory of it lingers like a shadow that follows you home. You wrap your coat tighter around you, trying to shield yourself from the cold wind that cuts through your thin clothing. The streets are dark, barely lit by the dim flickers of gas lamps that line the roads. The town is quieter now. The noise of the factory and the constant hustle of the workers replaced by the stillness of the night. But the cold still hangs in the air, thick and heavy, making each breath feel like you're inhaling ice. With each step, the fatigue sets in deeper, the weight of the day sinking into your bones. You can feel your feet dragging with every step, each one more difficult than the last. The journey feels endless, the road stretching out before you, like an unyielding task. But there's no choice. You can't afford to slow down. You can't afford to stop. Not now. As you walk, you think about the food, the lack of it, how it has been gnawing at you throughout the day. You didn't eat much at the factory, just a few scraps here and there, enough to keep your body going, but never enough to fill you up. Your stomach aches empty and hollow, reminding you of the hunger that's always there, just beneath the surface. The thought of food has become a constant companion, a nagging reminder that no matter how hard you work, there's never enough to truly satisfy. You wonder what your children will have for dinner tonight. You wonder if there will be enough for them. You can see your cabin in the distance, its shape barely visible through the fog that has begun to roll in. The closer you get, the more you dread it. The cabin is overcrowded, small, and cold. There's no space to rest, no quiet place to recover from the day's work. The walls seem to press in on you. The air, heavy with the smell of stale bread sweat and the lingering dampness from the cold. You know it will be another night of barely enough warmth, with the fire struggling to keep up with the chill that seeps through the cracks in the walls. You turn the corner, and there it is, the cabin, your home. It's more of a shelter than a home, really. Just a small space where you and your family have managed to carve out a life. You push the door open, and the cold air rushes in, making you shiver. The warmth from the fire inside barely reaches the doorway, a weak flicker that does little to chase away the chill that clings to your skin. Anyone home, you call out as you step inside, your voice echoing off the walls. You already know the answer. Of course they're home. Where else would they be? But the silence feels heavy, oppressive. You move further into the room, your eyes adjusting to the dim light from the dwindling fire. Your partner looks up from the corner, their face tired, their clothes still worn from the day's work. They smile at you, but it's a weary smile, the kind of smile that says they've been through the same struggle. You have the same exhaustion, the same hunger. How is it? They ask, but the question is more for the sake of asking than any real expectation of an answer. You drop your coat onto the chair and let out a long, exhausted sigh. Same as always, you reply, your voice barely above a whisper. Just a long day. The children are sitting near the fire, huddled together for warmth, their small faces illuminated by the faint glow. They look up at you, their eyes wide with hunger, their bodies thin from the lack of food. You force a smile, but it doesn't quite reach your eyes. You're all tired, worn down by the endless cycle of work, hunger, and exhaustion. There's no time to think about anything else. You move toward the stove, but as you do, your body protests. Every movement feels like it takes twice as much effort, your muscles screaming for rest, for a moment's reprieve. But there is no reprieve. Not here. Not now. You reach for the small pot of stew that's left over from the last meal, but it's barely enough to feed everyone. It's thin, watered down the last of the scraps from the day before, but it's all you have. Your partner stands up, moving toward the children. It's not much, they say softly, the words carrying a weight that you both know all too well. But we'll make do. You nod, your stomach growling at the sight of the food. It's not much, but you're grateful for it. The children take their bowls eagerly, their small hands shaking as they reach for the food. They don't ask for more, don't complain about the lack of flavor or the thinness of the broth. They know better than to complain. They know there's no more to give. They eat quickly, their eyes darting from the bowl to your face, waiting for a sign, waiting for you to tell them it's enough. You sit down finally, after what feels like an eternity, and take your own bowl of stew. It's barely enough to fill the emptiness in your stomach, but it's something. You eat quickly, not savoring the taste, not even thinking about it. You eat because you have to. You eat because your body demands it. But even as you chew, you know it's not enough. It's never enough. We'll have to stretch this out. Your partner says, their voice low. We'll make it last for a few more days at least. You nod, but the words don't offer any comfort. You've done this before. You've stretched meals, rationed food, and gone without. But it doesn't get any easier. The hunger is always there gnawing at you, reminding you that there's never enough to fill the gap. You glance at your children, their small bodies hunched over their bowls, their eyes dull with fatigue and hunger. You wish you could give them more wish. You could offer them something better, but you don't have it. Is there enough for tomorrow? You ask quietly, though you already know the answer. You've already rationed it, already planned for the next day's meal. It's always the same. There's never enough. Your partner looks at you, their face worn and tired. We'll make it work. We always do. The words are a comfort in their own way, but they're also a reminder. This is your life now, this endless cycle of work, hunger, exhaustion, and survival. There's no room for anything else. No room for rest. No room for comfort. No room for anything but the next meal, the next day of labor. The fire sputters in the corner. Its glow barely enough to chase away the cold. You glance over at it, and for a moment, it feels like the fire is just as tired as you are weak, fading, struggling to stay alive. You know that tomorrow you'll stoke the fire again, just like you always do. But tonight, it feels like it's barely enough to keep you warm. You glance at your partner, your tired eyes meeting theirs. There's no need for words. You both know what tomorrow will bring. The same grind, the same struggle, the same fight for survival. There's no escape from it. There's no easy way out. But for now, you're together, and that's something. That's enough to get you through tonight. The children finish their meal and sit back, their small bodies slumping with the effort of eating. You give them a small smile, though it's as weary as the rest of you. You know they're hungry, but there's no more to give. They'll have to make do with what little they've had. As the fire flickers and the silence settles over the room, you can't help but feel the weight of it all. The exhaustion, the hunger, the relentless cycle of survival. But you know that tomorrow you'll get up and do it all again. You have no choice. Tomorrow, the factory will call and you'll answer. Tomorrow, you'll wake up and face another long day, just like today, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. The hunger will always be there. The exhaustion will always be there. But so will you, fighting to survive, to make it through another day. And that's all you can do. That's all any of you can do. The door creaks open with a familiar groan as you step inside the cabin, your body feeling heavier with every movement. You close it behind you, and for a brief moment, the only sound is the soft click of the latch. The cold air from outside clings to you, despite the thin layer of warmth still clinging to your skin. But there's no time to rest. The faint glow of the fire from the corner of the room is barely enough to light the space, the flickering flame casting long shadows over the cramped corners. Your partner is already at the stove, stirring something in the pot, but the kitchen is quiet, too quiet, as if everyone is too tired to speak. You know the exhaustion that weighs on everyone in this room, yourself included. But there's still so much to do. There always is. The long hours in the factory, the endless toil have drained you, but the evening doesn't offer the rest you've dreamed of. No, the work here doesn't stop. The fire might have warmed the room a little, but there's no warmth left for rest. The children are already there, sitting huddled together in the corner, their small hands wrapped around whatever they've managed to scrape together for the day. They look up at you, their eyes tired and hungry, but they don't say anything. They've learned not to ask for more, not to complain about the small portions or the plain food. You can see the exhaustion in their faces, the same weariness that marks your own. They've been through a long day, just like you. They're young, but the weight of survival has already pressed down on their small shoulders. Can you help me with the fire? Your partner asks, their voice hoarse, from a long day of talking over the noise of the factory. You nod without thinking, already moving toward the hearth. The fire is dying down, the embers barely glowing, and you know it needs more wood, more care to keep it going. There's always something to be done, always some task that needs attention, and the day never seems to end. The firewood is stacked in the corner, some of it freshly cut, but much of it already half dry, and you wonder how long it will last. You gather a few logs, but your arms are stiff from the work in the factory, the same ache that's followed you all day. The moment you bend down to pick up the logs, your body protests, your back screaming in protest at the motion. But you push through it. You have to. It's the only way to keep the cabin warm enough for the night. There's no time to stop, no time to rest. Where are the kids? You ask, glancing around for a moment, and your partner points to the corner where your children are, their small bodies curled up together, barely enough space for all of them. The cabin is cramped with barely enough room for the two of you, let alone the children. They've already started their evening chores, helping where they can, cleaning dishes, gathering the leftovers, but even they know that their work is never done. They're tired, your partner adds with a soft sigh, but they're still helping out. You nod, but your heart aches at the sight of them, already carrying a burden that no child should bear. You're not sure if they even know what it's like to be truly free of labor. They've learned to work early, just as you did, just as your parents did. It's a cycle one that you wish you could break, but you know better. There's no breaking the cycle. The work has to be done. The chores need to be finished. And everyone has a role to play. You hope they understand. Hope they see the love you have for them, even though it's so difficult to show it in moments like these. You place the logs carefully onto the hearth, but they don't catch right away. The dampness of the wood makes the flames sputter and die before they can catch. The fire is temperamental, just like everything else in this house. You curse softly under your breath, your tired eyes trying to focus on the task at hand. Your mind is foggy from the exhaustion, and you feel your patience thinning with every failed attempt to get the fire started. "I'll get some more kindling," you say, your voice strained from the effort of keeping up. It's only after you speak the words that you realize how much effort it takes just to keep moving, to keep doing, to keep your body from collapsing under the weight of it all. But you don't stop. You can't. There's no time for rest, no time to stop and breathe. You head for the pile of kindling in the corner, bending down to grab a handful, your legs stiff and sore from standing all day. The fire needs more than just logs. It needs something to spark the flame, something to get it going. You add the kindling to the logs and try again the fire, catching weakly this time before finally starting to grow. You sigh with relief, watching as the flames finally start to lick the edges of the logs, the warmth slowly creeping back into the room. The children gather around the fire, their faces lighting up as the warmth begins to spread. It's a small comfort, but it's all you have. The room is still cramped, still cold. But for now, at least the fire offers something. You sit down beside your partner, the fatigue weighing heavily on your shoulders as you watch the children settle down for the night. Their faces are tired, but they're still so young. They still have so much ahead of them, so many days of work, so many chores to do. You wish you could protect them from all of it, from the exhaustion, from the hunger, from the endless cycle of labor. But you can't. The day's work isn't over yet, though. There are still dishes to wash the children, to help with their evening chores, and the bedding to prepare for the night. You glance over at your partner, who is already starting to tidy up the kitchen. Their movements slow, but deliberate, just like yours. It's a constant dance, the two of you moving together, working in rhythm to keep the household running. But it doesn't feel like enough. It never does. The children's small voices fill the room as they talk among themselves, their words soft and low. You can hear the exhaustion in their voices, the weariness from the day's labor. You wish you could give them something more, something other than the cold, something other than the constant struggle to survive. But there's no space for that. There's no time for dreams, no room for relaxation. There's just the next meal, the next task, the next chore that has to be done. As you finish your own chores and sit down by the fire, your body finally allowing you a brief moment of rest, you look around at your small family. You can see the fatigue in their faces, the same weariness that marks your own. There's no time to rest, No time to dream of anything more than getting through the next day. But at least you're together. At least you have that. Tomorrow, we'll get more firewood. You say, your voice quiet, almost a whisper. Your partner looks up, meeting your eyes, and nods in agreement. There's no need to say more. The routine has already been set, and you both know what's to come. You glance at the children, their eyes already growing heavy with sleep. The fire flickers softly in the corner, casting a warm glow over the room. It's not much, but it's enough for now. You know the hunger will return, the exhaustion will return, and tomorrow the work will return. But for tonight, in the quiet of the room, with the warmth of the fire and the comfort of your family nearby, you can find a moment of peace. Just for a little while. Tomorrow, the cycle begins again. But tonight, you let yourself rest. Just a little longer. Just a little longer. The weight of the day hangs heavy on your shoulders as you step out of the cabin, the cool evening air biting at your exposed skin. The factory's relentless rhythm has followed you home like a shadow that refuses to leave. But tonight, there's something different in the air, a rare, fleeting sense of relief. The day's work is done. The children are tucked away in bed, and for the first time in what feels like weeks, you have a few precious hours to yourself. You don't often get these moments, these fleeting respites from the unending grind of factory life. Your days are filled with the same cycle work. Eat, sleep, repeat. There's little time for anything else. The community is small, and its social life is limited. But tonight, you're determined to take advantage of the rare opportunity to connect with others, to share in the small joys that keep you going. You head down the familiar narrow path toward the local pub, your feet crunching against the gravel, the cold air filling your lungs as you breathe deeply. The pub is a small building on the edge of the village, a place that offers warmth, camaraderie, and the briefest escape from the grind of daily life. The faint glow of candlelight spills from the windows, and you can hear the low murmur of conversation inside, the sound of laughter and the clink of glasses. It's a welcome relief, a place where the weight of the world can be momentarily lifted, where the harsh realities of factory life can be set aside for a little while. As you step inside, the warmth of the fire hits you like a wave, and for a moment it feels as though the cold of the world outside has been left behind. The room is bustling, filled with the usual faces, fellow workers from the factory farmers, and the few who can afford the luxury of a drink at the end of a long day. The air is thick with the smell of ale and smoke, and the low hum of conversation fills the space. You make your way to the bar, nodding at familiar faces as you pass. Evening. The bartender greets you, a smile tugging at the corners of his lips as he slides a mug of ale your way. Rough day. You smile wearily, taking the mug and feeling the weight of the day shift slightly. You could say that you reply, your voice hoarse from hours of work. The bartender nods knowingly. The factory's grind wears on everyone, and no one here is a stranger to it. You're not alone, he says with a chuckle. We all have our stories, don't we? You take a sip of the ale, the bitterness sliding down your throat, and for a brief moment you let yourself relax. The warmth from the fire, the company of your fellow workers. It's a small comfort, but it's enough. You find a seat at one of the long wooden tables near the fire, and soon others join you, familiar faces from the factory, their weary eyes lighting up at the sight of the ale. The chatter begins, soft at first, then gradually picks up pace as the room fills with stories, laughter, and the occasional burst of music from the corner of the pub. "Oi, you're late," a voice calls out, and you turn to see one of your co-workers, a burly man named Thomas, walking toward you with a grin on his face. He's already had a few drinks, his cheeks flushed, but his eyes are bright with that spark of mischief you know all too well. "We were starting without you, mate," he adds, sitting down beside you. You chuckle and shake your head. "I've been working like a dog all day. Had to take my time getting here. Couldn't miss the night at the pub, though," he says with a wink. "Ain't that right? The factory can wait, but this place? This is the only real escape we've got." You nod the weight of his words, hitting you harder than you expected. The factory does demand everything from you, your time, your energy, your body. But here in this small pub, with its flickering candlelight and friendly faces, there's a reprieve. It's a momentary escape, a chance to unwind and share stories that are as old as the factory itself. The camaraderie here is something you cling to, something that makes the struggle of each day feel just a little more bearable. The conversation flows easily, the talk turning to the usual topics, the latest factory news, how bad the boss has been lately, and who's been struggling the most. Everyone knows the routine, but it doesn't matter. These are the moments that make it all feel worthwhile. The laughter, the shared misery, the solidarity that binds everyone in the room together. You listen to the stories, adding your own when it feels right. But mostly, you just let the warmth of the pub surround you, letting it wash away the exhaustion from the factory floor. As the evening wears on, someone pulls out a guitar from the corner of the room, strumming a few chords. The music is simple, just a few folk songs that everyone knows, and soon enough, others join in. It's a bit off-key, the voices rasping from too many days of labor, but the sound is comforting familiar. The pub feels alive with energy. The laughter, the music, the stories intertwining into something greater than the sum of its parts. You tap your foot along to the rhythm, the simple pleasure of the moment settling into your bones. It's hard to believe that just a few hours ago you were hunched over machines in the factory, your hands aching and your body exhausted. But now you're here surrounded by your fellow workers, sharing in the small joys that come from a life so relentlessly hard. It's a strange thing, this life. The work is grueling the days long, but there are moments like this, one brief moments where the human spirit can rise above the exhaustion, the hunger, and the pain. The song ends and a cheer erupts from the crowd. People clap each other on the back, their faces flushed with the warmth of the fire, the ale, and the music. There's a brief silence, a pause in the room, and for a moment, it feels as if everyone is just breathing together, taking in the simple, fleeting joy of being alive. But then, just as quickly as it came, the moment passes and the chatter begins again. You glance around the room, your eyes landing on the other workers, their faces tired but bright, their eyes lighting up with the joy of the evening. For just a few hours, the weight of the factory, the hardship of the work, seems to slip away, and it's replaced with something else. Something that feels a little like freedom, a little like hope. You think about your children, about how you wish you could give them more than this, more than the factory, more than the hunger, more than the never-ending struggle to survive. But for now, this is all you have. These moments, these brief respites, are the threads that keep you going. Someone calls for another round of drinks, and you raise your glass in solidarity with those around you. To another day of survival, you say, though, the words feel heavier than you mean them to be. The others laugh, but there's a note of truth in the toast, a truth that binds you all together. Tomorrow, you'll go back to the factory. Tomorrow, the machines will start again, and you'll be there doing your part. But tonight, in this small pub, surrounded by friends and laughter and music, you can forget about the factory for a little while. You clink glasses with your neighbor, the older woman who has worked in the factory longer than anyone, and she smiles at you, her face wrinkled but kind. Tomorrow will come, she says, her voice steady. But for now, let's enjoy what we have. And you smile, knowing she's right. Tomorrow will come, just like it always does. But for tonight, you'll hold on to the music, the laughter, the camaraderie. These moments are what keep you going. The small joys, the rare chances to escape the grind of life, to feel human again, even if just for a little while. The factory will always be there. But tonight, here in this pub, you are more than just a worker. You are a person sharing in the small pleasures of life with nothing more pressing than the warmth of the fire, the sound of music, and the company of those who understand. For now, that's enough. As the door creaks shut behind you, the cold air of the evening wraps itself around your tired body. The dim light from the hearth flickers weakly in the corner of the room, casting long shadows across the space. The fire, though a welcome relief, is barely enough to ward off the chill that has seeped into every corner of the cabin. You stand still for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to steady yourself. The weight of the day is still there, heavy on your shoulders, in the deep ache in your muscles, in the fog in your mind. The factory has claimed so much of you today. It always does. You can still feel the lingering strain in your back, the soreness in your hands, the stiffness in your legs from standing for hours on end. The mental fatigue follows closely behind the constant noise, the repetitive motions, the unyielding rhythm of the machines that never stop. It's a grind, a relentless, soul-crushing grind. And when you step into your home, you realize that this weight, the exhaustion, doesn't stop when you walk through the door. There's still more to do. The work is never over. Not really. You take a seat by the fire, the warmth seeping into your cold, tired limbs, but the relief is fleeting. You close your eyes for a moment, And in the darkness behind your eyelids, the memories of the factory floor flash before you. The machines, the dust, the unending hum that seems to have invaded your very bones. The factory never stops, and neither do you. You can feel the mental toll, the weariness that clings to your thoughts, like the soot that coats your skin. It's hard to think hard, to remember what it felt like to wake up without this weight pressing down on you. But somehow, you push through it. You have to. There's no choice. The physical pain is undeniable. Your body is tired, broken down from the constant strain of the work. You can feel it in every joint, every muscle. You shift in your seat, trying to find some comfort, but there's none to be found. The pain is a constant companion, a reminder of the toll the factory takes on your body. And yet you endure. You have to. There's no time to stop, no time to rest. Tomorrow, it starts all over again, the same routine, the same labor. You wonder how much longer you can keep going, but that thought is quickly pushed aside. There's no room for doubt. The work has to be done. The emotional strain is perhaps the hardest to bear. The constant reminder of poverty, illness, and danger weighs heavily on your heart. Every day, you see the toll it takes on those around you, your fellow workers, your family, the children who should be playing, but instead are already laboring, already learning the harsh realities of life. You've watched the sickness spread through the factory, the coughs and the wheezing, the pale faces of those who have been working for too long. You've seen the accidents, the injuries, and the loss of life that come with working in such dangerous conditions. But there's no time to mourn, no time to grieve. You can't afford it. The factory moves on, and so must you. Despite all the pain, despite the mental and emotional exhaustion, there's something else that rises within you as you sit in the quiet of your home. It's a deep sense of pride. Pride in your ability to endure. Pride in your perseverance, in the strength it takes to survive another day in this world. The factory may take its toll on your body, but it hasn't crushed your spirit. Not yet. And that's something to hold on to. The endurance of the human spirit. Your spirit is what defines you. It's not about the brute strength to push through the day, to lift the heavy loads, to stand on your feet for hours without complaint. It's about something more. It's about the will to keep going when everything inside you tells you to stop. It's about finding the strength to face another day, even when you know it will be the same as the one before. It's about surviving, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. And that strength is what has carried you this far. You think about the community, about the workers, your neighbors, your family. You think about how they too endure. The factory doesn't care about them, just like it doesn't care about you. But together, you keep going. The work is hard, the hours long, but there's something that holds you all together. It's the shared understanding that you're all in this together, that the only way to survive is by relying on each other, by finding strength in one another. You're not just workers. You're a community bound together by the same struggles, the same need to survive. Without each other, this life would be impossible. The factory doesn't care if you're sick or tired, but your neighbors, your family, they do. They share their meager meals with you. They help with the chores, and they stand by you when the pain becomes too much. That sense of community is what keeps you going, what keeps you strong. It's the small moments of connection that matter. The brief chats with a fellow worker during a short break, the shared silence as you sit by the fire. At the end of the day, the shared stories of hardship and survival. These moments, though small, are the things that carry you through the dark days. And then there's hope. Despite everything, there's always hope. The hope that things will get better, that one day there might be a reprieve, that the factory will stop its insatiable hunger for workers for labor. The hope that your children will know a life outside of this, that they won't have to endure the same struggle you've faced. Maybe it's a small hope, a fragile hope, but it's there, and it's enough to keep you going. The day ends, as it always does, in exhaustion. The aches in your body are unbearable, but you lie your head down to sleep, knowing that tomorrow will come, just like it always does. The factory will call, and you will answer. The work will continue. The struggle will continue. But tonight, for a brief moment, you allow yourself to rest in the quiet, in the stillness of the night. You've survived another day, and that's something worth holding on to. Tomorrow, the cycle begins again. But for now, you sleep. You rest knowing that despite the hardships, despite the pain, the will to keep going is within you. The legacy of those who have worked and fought before you, who have endured so much lives on in your heart. You are part of something bigger, something that has lasted through the hardest of times, and you'll carry that legacy forward for as long as you can.